The host said excitedly, "What incredible luck we have today. We've drawn our boss on the first try. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Nathaniel Blackwood, CEO, as he joins us on stage." The sound of camera shutters clicked in unison, flashes of light flashing non-stop, and the comment section of the live stream exploded. "That's so fake. Isn't this all scripted? This is going to be interesting." Nathaniel stood up and walked confidently toward the stage. "Before we dive into the interaction, let's have a quick interview. Mr. Nathaniel Blackwood, do you happen to know what the first interactive game is tonight?" the host asked. "I don't," Nathaniel replied, shaking his head slightly. He really didn't know. Silvermoon Corp had such a broad portfolio with countless brands, and Nathaniel often attended various brand events. He was used to the routine. Typically, he would give a speech and leave, just rarely getting involved in other parts of the event. The host smiled and continued, "Well, then you probably don't know that the next interactive segment is with director Seraphina. Why don't you tell us what your impression of her is?" Nathaniel turned his head and glanced at me, then replied in a calm tone, "She's highly capable. Without Seraphina, VNR wouldn't have achieved what it has today. I want to sincerely thank her for all her hard work." The host cleared his throat deliberately, casting a quick glance at the journalists in the audience before flashing a knowing smile. "Mr. Nathaniel Blackwood, I'm sure you're aware that we're not exactly looking for that answer." Nathaniel paused for a second, his gaze sharpening as he looked at me with a thoughtful expression. He knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't a spontaneous question from the host. The transitions and questions had been planned by an internal team, with no room for improvisation. It was clear the question had been prompted by me. He understood my aim, using our relationship to spark interest and generate buzz. Gossip between men and women was always a hot topic, especially with Isolde sitting in the audience. The director, a master at creating drama, immediately cut to a shot of Isolde. Her expression was instantly magnified on the live broadcast screen. As soon as the host asked his follow-up question, the reporters in the audience gripped their recorders tightly, holding their breath, eager to catch every explosive detail. The live stream audience was fully engaged, and the topic quickly surged to the top of social media. Nathaniel took a few seconds before responding, "Seraphina, smart and mature." His answer was direct and appropriate, neither controversial nor offering anyone a chance to make something out of it. The host laughed, teasing, "Didn't expect CEO Blackwood to be so slick." He then turned to me. "Now, let's ask Director Seraphina, what's your relationship like with Mr. Blackwood?" I held the microphone, looked at the camera, and purposely stayed silent for a moment. The comment section went wild. "Hurry up and answer. This silence speaks volumes. Seraphina, just say something already." The audience in the room quieted, waiting for my response. Finally, I smiled and said casually, "Guess." The live stream audience completely lost it. "I've already taken my pants off, and this is what you give me. Director Seraphina, you're sneakier than CEO Blackwood." The host chuckled helplessly. "All right, no more guessing. Let's move on to the first interactive game, the Extreme Sewing Needle Challenge." The rules of the game were revealed. As the name suggested, the Extreme Sewing Needle Challenge involved threading a needle, but with a twist. Participants couldn't use their hands. They had to use their mouths. One person would hold the needle in their mouth, while the other would hold the thread, completing the threading task from an incredibly close distance. This meant the challengers would be extremely close to each other, creating a scene both humorous and awkward, with a hint of flirtatious tension. As soon as the rules were announced, the comment section exploded. "What kind of strange game is this? This is a product launch event, and they're playing this kind of game. The planning team is really bold. This is definitely going to grab attention." The guests in the audience couldn't help but burst into laughter, while the journalists eagerly raised their cameras, ready to capture this historic moment. Games like this usually only appeared on reality TV shows, at parties, or in light-hearted entertainment programs. Who would have thought something so unconventional would show up at a formal product launch? It was easy to predict. Once this video hit social media, its popularity would skyrocket and the discussion would be off the charts. Nathaniel lowered his head, lost in thought for a moment. It goes without saying, this interactive game was clearly something I had tacitly agreed to. After the press conference, I could already foresee the wave of criticism I'd face from online users. The staff handed over the props. "All right, you two decide. Who's taking the sewing needle and who's taking the thread?" the host asked with a smile. I glanced at the sewing needle and thread before turning to him. "CEO Blackwood, which one would you prefer?" Nathaniel immediately grabbed the sewing needle, holding it between his teeth. I then picked up the thread, biting down on the end just enough to thread it through the needle's eye. "All right, the game begins," the host announced. "You've got 2 minutes to thread the needle. If you fail, there's a penalty." Nathaniel and I exchanged a look and without a word began the challenge with perfect coordination. Nathaniel held the sewing needle with his teeth, bringing the needle's eye closer to my thread's end. I adjusted the angle to assist as best I could. Our foreheads nearly touched, our noses brushed lightly, and the atmosphere became charged with a subtle, almost intimate energy. The photographer skillfully zoomed in on our faces, capturing the moment in vivid detail. And then, an unexpected incident. During the threading, our lips accidentally brushed against each other. In an instant, the director cut to a shot of Isolde in the audience, her reaction fully captured on camera. The online comments exploded. "Was that intentional? Holy crap, these two definitely have something going on. It's just a game, why are people making a big deal of it?" The countdown began on the screen. The task was no small feat. Several times, it seemed like we were about to succeed, only to fall short by a fraction. Finally, in the last few seconds, the thread successfully passed through the needle's eye. The game was a success. The host grinned. "Congratulations to CEO Blackwood and Director Seraphina for completing the challenge and avoiding the penalty. What a shame, though. What a shame." Before he could finish, the audience began to stir restlessly. Next, we'll select the second interactive guest. The big screen began rolling, and as expected, it landed on Isolde. This arrangement is so obvious. The planning team really knows what the audience wants. With everyone watching, Isolde walked onto the stage. The camera framed her alongside me. Who would have thought that one day we'd stand together like this and it would almost look harmonious? But the comment section was in chaos. The host smiled and asked, "Miss Isolde, we all know you're the brand ambassador for VNR, and this is your first endorsement after returning to your hometown. Could you tell us how you landed this opportunity? Any interesting stories along the way?" Isolde smiled. "Nothing special, both sides were interested, so we signed the deal." The host then threw a sharp question. "Oh, there are rumors online that you landed this endorsement because of your connection with Mr. Nathaniel. What's your take on that?" The question hit like a punch. Isolde glanced at Nathaniel in the audience, giving a slight smile. "That's just speculation. It's not like that." The host raised an eyebrow, clearly understanding. "Ah, I see. She then turned to the camera and said, "Audience, do you get it now?" The comment section flooded with, "Got it!" But at the same time, some fans were displeased. What does the host mean by that? She just said it wasn't true, and now she's twisting the narrative? The host continued, "What are your impressions of each other? Let's hear from Director Seraphina first." I briefly answered, "Miss Isolde is very beautiful and gentle." That was barely an answer. The host turned to Isolde with a grin. "How about you?" Isolde glanced at me and replied, "She's sweet and well-mannered. I first met Miss Seraphina when she was just 16, and she was very polite." It sounded similar to Nathaniel's response, but this one carried some weight. They had known each other that early? At 16, Seraphina must have just been adopted by Chairman Blackwood. So Isolde had met Seraphina back then? What did that mean? Could it be that Nathaniel had already taken Isolde home to meet his family? As soon as she said that, the comment section erupted. Casual viewers, fans, and shipping groups began debating fiercely. The host then announced we'd move on to a light-hearted interactive session, a rapid-fire Q&A. I would answer and Isolde would ask the questions. Though our coordination wasn't perfect, the overall vibe was enjoyable and the audience was laughing constantly. After the game ended, Isolde was preparing to return to her seat, but the host blocked her path with a smile. "Miss Isolde, don't rush off. We've got a special segment that requires your participation." The host then turned to me. Director Seraphina, could you please return to your seat and stay there for a moment? All right. I handed the microphone to the staff and walked calmly off the stage, returning to my seat with a composed expression, clearly aware of what was coming next. The viewers began speculating. No way! Is the host planning something again? Is Nathaniel coming up to the stage next? You might be right. Sure enough, the host smiled and announced, "Let's welcome CEO Blackwood back to the stage to join Miss Isolde for the final interactive game." Oh shit, this is insane. The camera was almost pressed against Nathaniel's face. His expression was calm, his eyes deep and unreadable. Under the gaze of everyone, he stepped onto the stage and stood beside Isolde. Isolde, towering in her high heels, made the height difference between them even more noticeable. The sound of camera shutters filled the air, and the flashing lights never stopped. The director skillfully controlled the angles, sometimes focusing on Nathaniel and Isolde, at other times cutting to Seraphina in the audience. The host, wearing a professional smile, spoke up. Next, I'd like to ask Miss Isolde a question for the audience. You mentioned earlier that when you first met Director Seraphina, she was only 16. Can you tell us more about the circumstances of your first meeting? This question had been prompted by the director through the earpiece. Isolde gently pressed her lips together, glancing briefly at Nathaniel beside her. The host smiled, still maintaining his professional demeanor. Of course, if Miss Isolde finds it uncomfortable to answer, she's welcome to skip it. But I think everyone here probably already has their own guesses. At least, I know I have mine. Fans watching from home, do you get it? The comments section exploded instantly, with messages flashing across the screen. Yes! I know! The host turned his attention to Nathaniel, asking the next question. Now a question for CEO Blackwood. When did you first meet Miss Isolde? Nathaniel paused for a moment before answering. In college. The host responded with a knowing tone, stretching out his words. Oh, so you've known each other for that long. With that statement, the comment section erupted into chaos once again. Though neither of them had officially announced a relationship, to the fans, this was practically an official confirmation. The fans who had been feeling disheartened by the interactions between Seraphina and Nathaniel suddenly seemed revived, as if given a shot of adrenaline, their spirits soaring. All right, enough talk. Let's move on to the next activity. I had arranged a game for Nathaniel and Isolde called the Balloon Squeeze Challenge. The rules were simple. The two of them would need to hug each other face to face and squeeze a balloon until it popped. There were only 3 balloons prepared. Under the host's guidance, Nathaniel and Isolde worked together effortlessly, popping one balloon after another. The audience erupted in applause, and the host led the clapping. Thank you to CEO Blackwood and Miss Isolde for their fantastic teamwork. Please, take a short break and step down from the stage. The two walked off the stage, one after the other. As they descended the steps, Isolde wobbled slightly in her heels, and Nathaniel immediately turned around, reaching out to steady her. The director caught the moment perfectly, switching the feed to live broadcast. After the press conference concluded, all the guests gathered for a group photo. The guests rose and moved toward the center of the stage. Meanwhile, the staff was still busy coordinating, and the scene felt a little chaotic. I quietly made my way to the stage, avoiding the crowd, planning to stand in the far corner. However, just then, Isolde walked past me, and her skirt got caught underfoot. She suddenly lost her balance, almost falling. Be careful, Nathaniel swiftly reached out to steady her. Once Isolde was steady, she glanced at me before softly speaking to Nathaniel. I'm fine. Nathaniel's gaze lingered on me for a moment, then he spoke softly to Isolde. Let's go. It's time for the photo. The two of them walked side by side toward the center of the stage. The crowd parted naturally, and they stood shoulder to shoulder in the central position, becoming the focus of everyone's attention. As for me, I remained on the edge, far from the spotlight, like an outsider. The final group photo was soon shared on Twitter. In no time, the fans stirred up another wave of heated discussion. Look at their positions, it's obvious. The press conference officially came to an end. Some of the guests left immediately, while others stayed behind for the final media interviews. A reporter seized the opportunity and hurried to catch up with Nathaniel, asking bluntly, "Mr. Nathaniel, are you and Miss Isolde currently in a relationship?" Everyone expected him to confirm, given their interactions at the press conference, which had already sparked a lot of speculation. However, Nathaniel simply answered in a calm, measured tone, "This is a VNR product launch event, so let's focus on the product. As for personal matters, I'm not in a position to discuss them. However, if you have any questions regarding finance or economics, I'd be happy to answer." Though he didn't provide a direct response, his words were impeccably composed, leaving no room for criticism. Sharp, emotionally intelligent, and perfectly in control of the public narrative, this moment managed to attract a new wave of neutral fans. As for me, I didn't schedule any follow-up interviews, instead staying busy with the staff to wrap things up. During this time, a reporter and photographer from one media outlet approached me, hoping to conduct an interview. I smiled politely and firmly declined their request. The reporters didn't press further, as the press conference had already given them plenty to talk about. The buzz surrounding VNR remained strong, consistently trending at the top of platforms like Twitter and TikTok. Even after the event had wrapped up, the topic stayed in the #1 spot all day. Once everything was concluded, I dismissed the staff early. As of today, the promotional phase had reached a milestone, but with the product about to officially launch, the team couldn't afford to relax just yet. I walked out of the studio, and my phone vibrated. I opened WhatsApp and saw a message from Nathaniel. "I'm waiting for you in the underground garage." I raised an eyebrow at the message. When the event had ended earlier, I hadn't seen Nathaniel. I had assumed he'd left with Isolde. Others might not have noticed, but I could tell Nathaniel's expression on stage had been as dark as could be. As an alpha wolf, Nathaniel usually kept a low profile in human society. No matter how much the online community criticized him, calling him a cheater or scumbag, he never paid it any mind. His private life had always been off limits to the internet. But today's press conference was clearly designed to market Nathaniel like a human celebrity, forcing him to participate in flashy variety games meant to please the audience and fans. If it had been just one instance, he might have let it slide. But they didn't stop at one. They swapped in 2 different scandalous partners, pushing him to perform alongside them. The fact that he'd managed to keep his temper in check and go through with these staged interactions was already a testament to his restraint. I could only imagine the storm of anger he would unleash afterward, but what had to be faced couldn't be avoided. I got into the elevator and headed down to the underground garage, following the location Nathaniel had sent me. "Nathaniel, how about we grab dinner tonight? I just got out of the film set and I haven't seen you in ages." As I turned a corner, I suddenly heard Isolde's voice, and my steps involuntarily slowed to a stop. "You go back first. There are reporters around tonight. It's not convenient." Nathaniel's voice was calm, but carried an unmistakable coldness. "But Isolde?" Nathaniel's voice lowered slightly, holding a trace of patience. "I promised Grandpa I'd spend time with Seraphina. I can't be seen with you too much right now, especially not with reporters. His health can't handle any stress." Isolde's voice wavered, almost on the verge of tears. "I know you're worried about Grandpa, but Nathaniel, I'm scared. What if you really fall for Seraphina and stop loving me? I don't want to lose you." Nathaniel fell silent for a moment, his voice still calm, though tinged with impatience. "Isolde, didn't you always feel guilty for coming between Seraphina and me? If that time ever comes, I'll make sure you return to Golden Crescent Pack and live comfortably." Isolde's face froze, her fragile mask cracking for just a moment. At that moment, I nearly laughed out loud. Isolde had always played the role of the gentle, kind-hearted woman in front of Nathaniel, hoping to earn his pity, but she'd nearly ruined it all with that last comment. After a while, Isolde softly sobbed, "Nathaniel, I can't live without you. Please, don't abandon me. I know I've wronged Seraphina, but I really can't be without you. Every night I have nightmares, dreaming that day. Those people dragged me into an old van, took me to a dark room, and did those things." She couldn't continue and collapsed into Nathaniel's arms, her tears soaking his sleeve. Nathaniel's expression softened slightly, his voice gentler as he patted her shoulder. "It's all in the past. Don't think about it anymore. I'll have Cassandra contact a doctor. You should see one. At these words, I furrowed my brow. All in the past? Did that mean all of it really happened? Could Isolde's condition be caused by this? I can't get over it. I just can't get over it. Her voice cracked with such heart-wrenching pain that it almost pierced the stillness of the underground garage. As soon as I close my eyes, I see it all again. I can't forget. I called your name, hoping you'd come save me. Nathaniel remained silent. I stayed where I was, still hidden in the corner, unwilling to step out. Then there was a loud thud, the unmistakable sound of a car door slamming shut. Her cries became muffled inside the car, and then nothing, only silence. I gently tightened my grip on my hands and leaned forward slightly, peering outside. The black Porsche had already driven out of the garage, its taillight slowly fading into the dim light. I glanced down at my phone screen and let out a soft sigh. A strange sense of resolution rose within me. I'd already guessed that Nathaniel would eventually give in to Isolde. It wasn't surprising, and I hadn't really expected anything, so I couldn't even say I was disappointed. Yet there was still a tinge of inexplicable loss inside me. Just as I'd thought, I loved him, but I no longer dared to hold any expectations for him. I took the elevator back down to the first floor and grabbed a taxi to Pack House. Halfway through the ride, my phone lit up. Nathaniel had sent me a message. "Sorry, Seraphina, something came up. I'm leaving now." I replied casually, "Okay, I'll head back to Pack House by myself." A few seconds later, another message came through. "Come back to Pack House later and wait for me. Let's have dinner together." I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the screen for a moment before I simply typed, "Got it." But deep down, I didn't take his words seriously at all. Thinking back on the past, every time Nathaniel was called away by Isolde, didn't he end up being gone all night, only coming back in the early hours? If he actually made it back before dinner, I'd be shocked. It could only mean one thing: Isolde's charm had faded considerably. The past few days had drained me both physically and mentally. When I finally arrived at Pack House, I went straight upstairs, drawn to the promise of a long, soothing bath. The warm water relaxed my tired muscles and eased the tension from my body. While I soaked, I casually checked my phone, scrolling through Twitter and other social media platforms. There was a lot of buzz about the press conference. The hottest topic? Nathaniel and Isolde. It was almost a confirmed romance at this point. People from all walks of life had joined the conversation. Passers-by, trolls, die-hard fans, OTP supporters. Different groups clashed fiercely in the comment sections of posts and videos, but overall, public opinion was still somewhat in my favor. After the press conference, most viewers seemed to believe that the previous rumors about me being the Mistress had been disproven. After all, how could the three of us have stood there together, side by side, if that were true? Plus, during the conference, Isolde had mentioned that she'd known me for a long time, and her tone clearly suggested that she saw me as a sister. If there had really been a mistress involved, would a normal person talk like that? Still, Isolde's fans weren't backing down. They clung to one detail with a vengeance. During the group photo, Isolde's skirt had gotten stepped on, and she nearly fell. The director had zoomed in for a close-up, and after Nathaniel steadied her, the first thing she did was look at me. The live stream hadn't shown who stepped on the skirt, but Isolde knew exactly who it was. That glance, her gaze directed at me, became the trigger. Her fans immediately blamed me for stepping on the skirt. My Twitter had a fresh batch of comments today. Luckily, I'd already turned off direct messages, or I'd probably be famous for all the wrong reasons again. But the comments didn't really bother me. I casually skimmed through a few, then logged out and set my phone aside. Whether they were praise or insults, in the end, it was all just part of the marketing game. That's when a knock sounded at the door. "Luna, dinner's ready." "Okay, thanks, Arya." I replied and got up from the bathtub, changed into some comfortable loungewear, then headed downstairs to eat. "Luna, do you think Alpha will be back tonight? Should I save dinner for him?" "He probably won't be coming back." "No need to save dinner for him," I said, my tone calm and indifferent. "Got it." After dinner, I went straight upstairs to rest, while Arya stayed behind to clean up. Once she was finished, Arya came out of the kitchen but froze when she saw Nathaniel. Back. He loosened his collar, standing in the living room, scanning the area before casually asking, "Is there still dinner?" Arya stood frozen, her body stiff. "Alpha, you... How did you come back? Luna said you wouldn't be back tonight, so we didn't save dinner for you. I'll make something right away." Nathaniel. After a brief pause, he gave a low response, his gaze darkening slightly. Then he turned and walked upstairs, heading straight for the master bedroom. That night, I'd already settled on the bed, casually scrolling through my phone. The door suddenly swung open, and Nathaniel strode in. I looked up, slightly stunned at the sight of him. "Why are you back at this hour?" Nathaniel walked over to the bedside, standing still as he watched my blank expression. He couldn't help but laugh, though there was a touch of helplessness and frustration in his eyes. "Didn't I tell you? I wanted you to wait for me and have dinner together tonight." "Oh," I replied calmly, my tone neutral. "Every time you leave, you're gone the whole night. I thought tonight would be the same." Nathaniel's smile faltered, his lips pressing into a thin line. "You? Saw it?" "Yeah." Nathaniel fell silent for a moment before explaining. "I took her to the hospital, then came back." I didn't respond, keeping my indifferent expression. For some reason, Nathaniel felt a strange discomfort stirring inside him. In the past, whenever Nathaniel went to see Isolde and came back, Seraphina would freeze him out completely, her attitude turning icy, even explosive, as if she'd swallowed dynamite. But now, Seraphina was calm. It was as if nothing had happened, even during today's press conference. When they played the interactive game together, he hadn't sensed anything out of the ordinary. But later, he realized, Seraphina had even arranged for him to do the game with Isolde. At that moment, he felt an inexplicable surge of irritation. Seraphina was really big-hearted. She was the one creating opportunities for her mate and Mistress to interact intimately. Or was it that Seraphina didn't love him anymore? Did she love Lucian Thornheart instead? "Oh," I replied coolly, my expression unchanged. I wouldn't consider him more forgivable just because he took Isolde to the hospital tonight and came back. For me, there was no real difference. Unless he could completely reject Isolde. "Seraphina?" Nathaniel called my name softly. I raised my gaze, shifting from my phone to him, my tone calm. "Is there something else?" "Today's press conference. You did well. Truly. Impressive." His voice was laced with barely contained irritation. As expected, he had come to reprimand me. I straightened up and met his gaze, my tone serious. "Sorry I did for the good of the V&R brand. Since we were already getting attention, why not use that to hype up the products? And I shouldn't have arranged those interactive games for you. You're not like those humans, the celebrities. And what else?" I racked my brain but couldn't come up with anything else. I blinked at Nathaniel, staying silent. Amused by my reaction, Nathaniel narrowed his eyes dangerously. "Why did you still arrange those interactive games for me and Isolde? Didn't you like it?" Nathaniel's expression immediately darkened. What did whether he liked it or not have to do with anything? I answered honestly. "You two have a lot of OTP fans, right? Giving them a little treat will just boost the hype." Nathaniel was momentarily speechless, his lips twitching slightly. Seraphina, always finding a way to take advantage of any situation. She could exploit anything. Seeing him silent, I stood my ground. "The press conference generated a lot of buzz. I'm confident the product will perform well once it's officially launched. Honestly, Alpha Nathaniel, you shouldn't blame me for this." Nathaniel chuckled lightly, as though my shamelessness had amused him. "You think you're justified. I'm doing this for the company." His gaze darkened and his voice dropped. "Aren't you worried that Grandpa and Grandma will see? Or that the pack might think their Alpha and Luna's relationship is unstable? It won't happen. I'll explain everything to them." Nathaniel stared at me for a few seconds before muttering softly, "Don't do it again." I grinned and winked at him. "Thank you, mighty Alpha." Nathaniel went downstairs for a late dinner, and after returning to the primary bedroom, he quickly showered, dried his hair, and lay down on the other side of the bed. I was casually scrolling through my phone when he propped himself up and leaned toward me. He placed his head on my shoulder, his voice lazy. "What are you looking at?" "Nothing much, just browsing." I immediately shut my phone. Actually, I had been using a secret account I created to check out the hashtags OTP fans had made on Twitter. The interaction from the press conference had already been edited into a video, quickly spreading and being reposted all over Twitter. Nathaniel noticed my unusual reaction and narrowed his eyes. Nothing? Then why did you close your phone? His heated breath brushed my neck, and I instinctively shrank away, pushing him lightly. Don't be so close. Nathaniel chuckled and snatched my phone out of my hand. I immediately lunged to grab it back. No. He knew my password. Once he entered it, he would see I was checking the OTP fans' Twitter topics about him and Isolde. He couldn't find out about this. Nathaniel raised the phone high. With his long arms and legs, I couldn't reach it. I pulled desperately at his arm, finally managing to pull it down, but he switched the phone to his other hand, raising it up again. What a waste of effort. I was furious. Give me back my phone. Nathaniel, seeing how red my face had gotten from frustration, couldn't help but laugh. But when his gaze dropped and landed on me, his smile faltered. In the struggle for the phone, my loungewear had loosened slightly, exposing a large patch of skin. His throat bobbed, and his voice turned low as he asked, "How about some bedtime exercises tonight?" These past few days, we had still shared the same bed, but with work keeping us so busy, I would fall asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow, too tired to think of anything else. Now that the promotional period was finally over, I could finally relax a bit. I shook my head and pushed him away. "No, I'm too tired tonight. I just want to rest." Nathaniel raised an eyebrow, his voice husky. "You don't need to do anything. That's not going to happen." "Well, how about I help you relax?" I didn't respond. Nathaniel chuckled, knowing I had silently agreed. This bad girl only ever knew how to enjoy herself. When it was over, I lay in bed, unwilling to move, but Nathaniel kindly took care of the cleanup. I closed my eyes and quickly drifted off to sleep. Half awake, I suddenly heard my phone ring. The ringtone was short, ringing only for a few seconds before it was picked up. I blinked in a daze, confused, thinking I was still dreaming. I heard a faint sound beside me, and the door quietly opened and closed again. I snapped my eyes open. The room was pitch dark. Using the moonlight, I turned my head to the other side of the bed, empty. So it wasn't just a dream. Someone had called Nathaniel. A moment later, I heard the doorknob turn gently, and Nathaniel tiptoed into the room. His gaze swept over the bed where I slept before he walked into the closet to change. His movements were light, as if trying not to disturb anyone. Once he was dressed, he silently left the room. As the door clicked shut, the silence returned to the room. Not long after, I heard the sound of a car engine starting downstairs. I opened my eyes, staring at the dark ceiling, and an unsettling thought crossed my mind. The call must have been from Isolde. I wanted to ask, but I didn't dare. I was a coward, unwilling to humiliate myself any further. Even if I begged him to stay, Nathaniel wouldn't. I closed my eyes but couldn't fall asleep. I tossed and turned, my mind in turmoil. By the time dawn was near, the engine sound came again from downstairs. Not long after, the door opened, and Nathaniel, shedding his night-darkened jacket, climbed back into bed as if nothing had happened. His breathing was steady, flawless. I played along with this silent charade, pretending to know nothing. At 6:30 in the morning, Nathaniel got up on the dot, changed into his workout gear, and went downstairs to run. I didn't open my eyes until I heard the front door close. When I did, my gaze was clear, but bloodshot. I hadn't slept at all. I lay there a while longer until it was almost 7 before I got up to wash. Downstairs, Nathaniel was already sitting on the sofa with a newspaper in his hands, waiting for breakfast. "Up already? Let's eat," he said, putting down the paper and standing. His gaze lingered on my face for a moment, his brow furrowing slightly. "Didn't sleep well last night?" "Maybe it's just that I've been so tired lately," I replied neutrally, giving a vague answer. Nathaniel stayed silent for a few seconds, but didn't press further. At the office, Beta Julian suddenly pulled me into a new Slack thread. The thread was titled, "Beachside Resort Vacation." The announcement in the thread read, "Due to excellent performance by the V&R, M&F, and M&E departments recently, CEO Blackwood has decided to invite everyone for a 2-day vacation at the Beachside Resort." V&R, M&F, and M&E were all sub-brands under Silvermoon Corp. M&F focused on beauty products, and M&E was in charge of hair care and skincare. The three departments had always had a strong relationship. This wasn't an official work thread. The chat style was noticeably more casual. Employees had started to let loose, posting emojis left and right. "Thanks, boss. Long live CEO Blackwood. CEO is so handsome." I casually sent an emoji, then slid over to the status update tab and started scrolling. Then, my finger suddenly stopped. Isolde had posted a status update at 3 a.m. last night. "Thanks for the company in the early hours." The picture attached was of two hands holding each other, one big, one small, clearly a man and a woman. And the man's hand, long with distinct joints, pale skin. Too familiar. I couldn't possibly be mistaken. What convinced me further was that this status update was set to be visible only to me. How laughable. Nathaniel and Isolde, one was desperately hiding from me, while the other was subtly making sure I found out. I stared at the photo, a ridiculous emotion stirring in my chest. My finger hovered, and I screenshot the image, ready to send it to Nathaniel. But my hand froze midair, and I paused. Forget it. It felt too much like a child tattling to the teacher. I had already confronted Nathaniel about Isolde's methods before. Did he believe me? No. I'd told him about the makeup team incident. He didn't believe that either. I explained why Tessa had acted the way she did, and he didn't believe that either. In Nathaniel's mind, Isolde was a sweet, kind, innocent girl who would never do anything provocative. What's more, she was his so-called destined mate. If I sent him this screenshot, he'd just think I was deliberately stirring up trouble. He might even turn around and accuse me of slandering Isolde. With that thought, I smiled bitterly and deleted the screenshot. The company had arranged for a chartered bus to take everyone to the seaside resort, and it was scheduled for the night before. The three departments combined had over 40 people, so 3 buses were arranged in total. As soon as the workday ended the next day, everyone eagerly grabbed their luggage and excitedly walked out, their faces full of anticipation for the short trip. When I reached downstairs, several buses were already filled with employees. I grabbed my bag, boarded the bus, walked toward the back, and found an empty double seat by the window. Employees continued to board, and the bus was filled with excited chatter. "Director Seraphina, can I sit here?" A male voice came from beside me. I looked up and saw Leo. I nodded slightly. "Go ahead. Thanks, you're welcome." Leo worked in the M&F department, but had originally been part of V&R before being transferred. He had once expressed his feelings for me, but I rejected him and the matter was left unresolved. "Hey, boss, you're riding the bus with us?" Someone called out in surprise. I instinctively looked up and saw Nathaniel boarding the bus with his luggage. His gaze swept over the cabin calmly, and he nodded slightly. Yesterday, he had suggested driving me there, but I refused, not wanting to stir up gossip among the colleagues. "What's this? The CEO can't relax too?" Someone teased with a smile. "CEO on a bus? Are you sure he's not an undercover boss trying to experience life?" Another person chimed in, provoking a burst of laughter. "CEO Blackwood, shouldn't you be driving your luxury car with a beautiful lady, enjoying the sea breeze on the way to the resort? So down to earth. Could it be for someone special?" After saying this, several pairs of eyes subtly turned toward me. The atmosphere grew warmer, and everyone laughed and joked. There weren't many empty seats left, only those in the middle or at the back. Nathaniel didn't say anything and walked straight to the back of the bus, finding an empty seat and sitting down. Leo shifted his gaze and muttered quietly, almost to himself, "I didn't expect the boss to join us. I thought he lived for work and nothing else." His tone was like he was speaking to himself, yet it seemed like he was saying it intentionally for me to hear. I didn't respond, leaning back against the window and closing my eyes to rest. After a while, the bus started moving, slowly heading toward the resort. The bus was full of noise as employees finally had a chance to relax, chatting freely. "Director Seraphina, do you have a boyfriend?" Leo suddenly asked, his voice lowered to almost a whisper. The noise of the bus made his words hard to catch. It was clear he lowered his voice on purpose, hoping not to be overheard and teased by the others. I nodded slightly. "Yes." Leo seemed taken aback for a moment. "Really? But I don't think anyone's ever seen him." He paused, his tone sincere and serious. "Director Seraphina, I really like you. I hope you'll give me a chance to pursue you. I raised an eyebrow and asked casually, "Pursue me? Haven't you heard the rumors at the company?" There had always been rumors at the company claiming that to secure my position at Silvermoon Corp, I had gotten close to Nathaniel and become his mistress. Leo frowned, his tone firm. "Those rumors are complete nonsense. I know you're not like that." I smiled lightly. "Thank you for believing in me, but I really do have a boyfriend. He's just very busy with work." Leo fell silent for a few seconds before finally nodding. "Okay. Hey, Leo, what were you just saying to Director Seraphina?" A straightforward colleague suddenly turned our way, teasing, "Was that a confession?" "No way. Leo, is that true?" Others immediately joined in, teasing. "Leo, brave move, but it's a tough challenge, considering Director Seraphina is the high mountain flower." "Director Seraphina, what do you think of Leo? He's tall, handsome, capable, and devoted to you." "Now that's perseverance. How about giving him a chance? Maybe it'll work out." "Leo, are you planning a romantic confession at the resort?" Leo immediately stood up and waved his hands, denying it. "Don't spread rumors. It's not like that." "Oh, come on. That's a classic 3 denial move." "Leo, tell us the truth. If Director Seraphina agrees, would you dare to actually take her to the beach to watch the sunset?" Leo seemed to be at a loss for words, raising his hands in defeat. "Enough, guys. All right, Leo. We're rooting for you. If you need some background music, we'll light some torches for you." Laughter echoed throughout the bus, and the teasing got louder and louder. At that moment, a deep voice came from the back seat. Nathaniel cleared his throat, not too soft, not too hard. The once lively atmosphere suddenly became quiet for a few seconds. Someone quietly turned their head to look at the back seat, then coughed lightly, trying to hide their smile. Leo, look, we're just trying to give you an opportunity. Ha." Julian immediately stepped in to ease the tension. All right, enough with the jokes. Stop making nonsense in front of the ladies." That helped everyone calm down a bit. Just as I was about to close my eyes and relax, a WhatsApp notification suddenly chimed. I opened it, and Nathaniel had sent a message. "My room is 1004. I frowned. The rooms for my colleagues had been assigned by the company, 2 girls to a room, 4 guys to a room. But Nathaniel, he had the presidential suite, a single room, ridiculously luxurious. I quickly replied, "No need. I had a roommate, and if I didn't sleep in my own room tonight, there would definitely be gossip tomorrow." Nathaniel replied almost instantly, "My room has a private hot spring." I hesitated. The bus pulled into the seaside resort and parked steadily in the lot. My colleagues filed out and followed Julian to the front desk to pick up their room keys. Julian then posted a message in the threads. "Everyone, after you settle into your rooms tonight, feel free to relax. Tomorrow, we'll have a barbecue lunch on the 2nd floor." He also kindly attached a resort map. Violet from the M&F department and I were assigned to the same room. Once we got to the room, I quickly unpacked, and Violet turned to ask, "Director Seraphina, I'm going out with a few colleagues for dinner. Do you want to join us?" I smiled and shook my head. "You go ahead. I'm not hungry yet. I'll go later." "All right, we'll head out then." Once Violet left, I quickly changed into some casual clothes and headed to room 1004. I knocked on the door. Nathaniel opened it promptly. When he saw me, a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. "Come in." The presidential suite indeed was ridiculously extravagant, with luxurious decor, a spacious floor-to-ceiling window, and even a private hot spring on the room's balcony. I couldn't help but exclaim, if I lived here, I probably wouldn't want to go back to the office. Nathaniel remained calm. "So you're staying here tonight?" I shook my head firmly. "No way. I'm going back to my room tonight, but I'll come back for the hot spring tomorrow." He raised an eyebrow. "Since you're here, why not relax tonight and soak in the hot spring? It'll help you unwind." I was tempted. "You go ahead and soak first. I'll have dinner delivered to the room, and we can eat while we relax." Is he always this smooth? I was completely won over. "Wait for me, I'll grab my swimsuit." I rushed back to my room, grabbed my swimsuit, quickly showered, and returned to room 1004. I jumped into the hot spring. It felt amazing. The warm water enveloped my body, instantly washing away the fatigue of the past few days. I sighed contentedly, leaned back against the edge of the pool, and closed my eyes, soaking in the rare moment of relaxation. However, the next second, I heard footsteps approaching. I opened one eye and saw Nathaniel walking slowly toward me. His bathrobe hung loosely around his body, the open front revealing a firm chest, his muscles well-defined and gleaming with a slight sheen from the fresh shower. The robe's belt was tied loosely, revealing his narrow waist and lean abdomen. Each step he took carried a quiet power, radiating a dangerous, seductive allure. Water droplets still clung to his wet hair, sliding down his strong jawline before disappearing into the hollow of his collarbone. His gaze was deep and lazy, as if he were a hunter sizing up his prey. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips, as if he knew exactly the effect he was having on me. I immediately grew alert. "What are you doing here?" He answered without hesitation. Came to soak in the hot spring, obviously. I completely forgot about him. Before I could come up with an excuse to leave, Nathaniel had already shrugged off his bathrobe and stepped into the pool. I had to admit, this man's physique was seriously impressive. As I tried to look away, Nathaniel suddenly waved his hand in front of my face, a teasing smile on his lips. "What's this? Like what you see? Weren't you always looking before?" "Who's looking at you?" I quickly turned my gaze away, my face flushing slightly, and I made up an excuse. "I was just thinking about something." "Oh," Nathaniel drawled, his voice carrying an unmistakable tone as he sat next to me. "Is your shoulder sore? Want me to give you a massage?" I was about to decline, but then realized how stiff my neck and shoulders had been lately. "Okay." I tilted my head back, comfortably allowing myself to enjoy the free massage. "Turn around." Nathaniel's large hands gently pressed onto my shoulders, applying just the right amount of pressure as he slowly worked out the tension in my muscles. The warm water from the hot spring added to the comfort, and I couldn't help but let out a soft sigh. "You're pretty good at this massage thing," I said lazily. Nathaniel chuckled softly, his voice low. "Of course." But then his hands slowly moved downward. By the time I realized something was off, it was too late. "Stop!" I quickly spun around, glaring at him. He raised an eyebrow innocently. "What?" I gritted my teeth and glared at him. "Where do you think you're putting your hands?" His smile deepened, his tone entirely serious. "Just helping you relax." "Who told you to relax me that thoroughly?" I was so angry that I splashed him with water, soaking his face. He froze for a moment and then slowly grinned, looking at me with a dangerous gleam in his eyes. "Seraphina, are you getting braver?" Seeing the situation escalate, I quickly tried to escape, but he reacted even faster, grabbing my wrist and pulling me into his arms. "Trying to run?" I stared at him. "Nathaniel, calm down. Who was the one who provoked first? That was self-defense." I collapsed into Nathaniel's arms, my body feeling like it had melted into a puddle of mud, unwilling to move even an inch. My cheeks were flushed, my lips slightly parted, and I was breathing softly. Noticing a slight shiver run through me, Nathaniel slowly withdrew his hand, lowering his gaze to study me, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "How do you feel? Completely relaxed now?" he asked, his voice low. I leaned against him, not wanting to engage, lazily murmuring a quiet, my voice barely louder than a soft purr. Nathaniel tightened his embrace, lifting me effortlessly and settling me onto his lap. The warm water around us gently rippled. Realizing what he was about to do, I immediately snapped awake and started to struggle. No, absolutely not," I protested. His voice was unnervingly calm as he replied, "Why not? You're not working tomorrow." That sounded way too dangerous. If I let myself go any further, the little howler inside me wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. He'd been holding back for 2 months. Not to mention, for the past few days, he'd been helping me relax. In this situation, his patience was clearly nearing its breaking point. I was still trying to fight him off when suddenly, knock knock. The sound of someone knocking at the door echoed. I immediately sighed in relief, as if I'd found a lifeline, and hastily pushed against him. "Go answer the door. Don't keep them waiting." Nathaniel closed his eyes briefly, took a deep breath, and muttered a curse under his breath. "Damn it." He slowly let me go, slipped on a bathrobe, and walked toward the door. Outside, it was indeed the server delivering our dinner. A moment later, Nathaniel wheeled the cart inside, and the dinner spread was nothing short of extravagant. The meal was a feast, and Nathaniel laid out all the food on the table by the hot spring. I soaked in the warm water, savoring the meal, feeling utterly content. After dinner, I quickly jumped out of the hot spring, wrapping a towel around myself and hurrying to the door. "I'll head back first. You take your time eating." Nathaniel stood frozen, a vein pulsing on his forehead. Nathaniel's POV. My wolf was laughing at me. "You got played! Ha ha! Shut up!" Annoyed, I took a few bites and stood up from the hot spring, quickly cleaning up around the edge of the pool. Back in the living room, I casually picked up the phone from the couch, about to unlock it to check for messages, only to realize this wasn't my phone. It was Seraphina's. I froze for a moment. When did she leave it behind? My fingers instinctively swiped the screen. She'd never changed the password. As soon as I unlocked it, the screen stayed on the status update page, as if Seraphina had just been looking at it and hadn't had time to log out. What was she looking at? I scrolled down a couple of times and then my hand froze. There it was, a status update from Isolde, posted the previous night. "Thanks for the company this morning." I tapped the picture and immediately recognized the hand in the image. It was mine. The timestamp matched exactly when I'd gone to meet Isolde behind Seraphina's back that night. My brow furrowed and a wave of panic rushed through me. Had Seraphina seen this status update? Had she already come across it? I grabbed my own phone, opened WhatsApp, and checked the same timestamp, but I couldn't find the status update. I tried opening Isolde's profile on Seraphina's phone to confirm her identity. Then a wild thought crossed my mind. What if Isolde had set the status update to be visible only to Seraphina? Why would she do that? Was she doing it on purpose for Seraphina to see? Was she showing off? Hadn't she always claimed to be sorry to Seraphina, acting like the victim? Then why pull a stunt like this? I picked up the phone and sent Griffin Steelheart a WhatsApp message. "Did Isolde post a status update the night before last?" Griffin quickly replied, "No, why do you ask?" I looked down at Seraphina's phone, the answer already forming in my mind. This status update was visible only to Seraphina. What was this woman playing at? After a moment's thought, I dialed Isolde's number. The phone quickly connected, and her light voice came through the receiver. "Nathaniel!" I took a deep breath, my tone calm. "I need to ask you something. I want you to answer honestly." There was a brief pause on the other end, and she sounded a little cautious. "What is it? Did you post a status update the night before last?" The other end went silent. That silence was more convincing than any answer. My gaze turned cold, and my voice dropped low. That status update was only visible to Seraphina, right? Why? There was a pause for a few seconds, and then Isolde suddenly started crying. "Nathaniel, it's me. It's me. Please don't hate me, okay?" Her voice was thick with tears, sounding completely distressed. I was just so afraid of losing you. That night, you told me you might start liking Seraphina, that you weren't planning on divorcing her, and that you wanted to send me back to the Golden Crescent Pack. I was really scared. I was afraid of losing you. I didn't know what to do, I was confused, and that's why I posted that status update. I'm so sorry, can you forgive me?" Her crying grew louder, emotions a chaotic mess, almost too rehearsed. I remained silent, lightly tapping my fingers on the armrest of the couch, the image of Seraphina quietly scrolling through her phone flashing in my mind. She hadn't shown me this status update. Otherwise, I wouldn't be finding out about it now, so Isolde must have been certain that Seraphina wouldn't say anything, which is why she dared to pull off this solo screening, right? A sense of discomfort stirred inside me. Isolde continued crying on the phone, trying to make amends. "Nathaniel, please forgive me. I'll go apologize to Seraphina right now. Just don't leave me. I can't live without you." I closed my eyes, finally speaking in a low voice. "Just this once, delete the status update." She immediately, still crying, repeatedly promised, Okay, I'll delete it right now. Nathaniel, you forgive me, right? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. How could I do this to Seraphina?" "I hurt her again. She must hate me now, right?" I replied coolly. "She probably hasn't seen it." There was a brief pause on the other end. I continued, "From now on, stay away from her." I know." Isolde nodded in agreement, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling of dissatisfaction. It was such a shame that Seraphina hadn't seen the status update. She had been waiting to see Seraphina's reaction, but instead, her post had disappeared without a trace, leaving Isolde with a lingering sense of disappointment. After hanging up the phone, I picked up Seraphina's mobile and refreshed the status update. The post had already been deleted. I let out a quiet sigh of relief. Now, Seraphina probably wouldn't find out that I had left that night. Just as I was thinking this, there was a knock on the door. I walked over and opened it to find Seraphina standing there. She looked at me and said bluntly, "Seems like I left my phone here." I raised an eyebrow, coolly handing her the phone. "It's not seems like, it's definitely left here." She took the phone from my hand, casually saying, "Thanks." She turned to leave, but then, as if remembering something, she paused, turned back, and looked at me. "By the way, could you do me a favor? Come in and talk." Seraphina walked in, and I closed the door behind her. Leaning casually against the wall, I said, "Just speak plainly. Do we still need to be formal with each other?" She hesitated for a moment before replying in a nonchalant tone, "Can I take a picture of you to post as a status update?" A sudden unease flickered in my chest. Instinctively, I licked the corner of my mouth. "Take my picture? For a status update?" Her tone was too calm, which only made me more alert. Had she already seen Isolde's status update? Noticing my hesitation, Seraphina decided to explain further. "On the way here, Leo asked if I had a boyfriend. He said he was interested in me. I told him I had a boyfriend, but he didn't believe me." She shrugged, her tone slightly helpless. "I'm worried he'll keep pursuing me, so I just want to make him back off. Don't worry, I won't take a picture of your face." I listened and immediately agreed without hesitation. "Sure, how do you want to do it?" Seraphina thought for a moment, her voice turning more professional, like she was planning a perfect PR move. "I want to take a picture that looks believable, something with a bit of intimacy." I nodded, asking in agreement. Like what?" Without missing a beat, she suggested, "I'll lie in your arms, and you'll put your hand around me. I'll hold the phone and take a selfie. It'll capture only your chin down, showing your chest and collarbones, but not your face." I thought for a moment. "Okay, let's do it on the bed." It seemed a bit strange at first, but thinking it through, it made sense. She didn't protest, and we moved to the bed to find the right angle. As the shutter clicked, I suddenly felt a strange sense of absurdity. We were supposed to be friends, yet this felt more like some fake boyfriend rental service instead. Seraphina took several photos, carefully selecting the one she liked the most. In the photo, she was lying in my arms, her face centered, while only half of my body was visible, wearing a bathrobe, with my collarbones and muscle lines clearly visible, exuding a subtle yet undeniable sense of intimacy. Though my face wasn't visible, it was enough to stir the imagination. She nodded in satisfaction. "This one works. We can't post it today, though. Let's wait until we're back." "Why?" "Because if we post it now, your colleagues will definitely start reading into it." She said it with a sense of logic that seemed obvious to her. Her words annoyed me, but I couldn't argue with her reasoning. I responded flatly, "Do whatever you want." Seraphina, holding her phone, stood up happily and walked toward the door with light, quick steps. "I'm going back now." Watching her leave with almost a bounce in her step, I couldn't help but frown, my voice tinged with bitterness. "So I'm just a background prop you're using?" Seraphina paused, turned back with a smile, and said, "Of course not. The esteemed Alpha is a high-end background prop." And then she left. I watched her retreating figure, suddenly overwhelmed by a feeling of being discarded, used and tossed aside without a second thought. Seraphina's POV. I returned to my room and sank back against the headboard of the bed. I opened Isolde's status update and lazily scrolled down. Where's that post from the other day? It's gone? Did she delete it? I raised an eyebrow, the corner of my lips curling into a slight smile. One thought crossed my mind. It doesn't matter if she deleted it. I find her repulsive, too. The photo I took with Nathaniel today wasn't meant for Leo at all. It was a little gift, specifically crafted for Isolde. It was guaranteed to make her choke with anger, frustrated, unable to speak or scream. Just the kind of fury that would keep her up all night. And this time, I had the perfect excuse. Even if Isolde went completely off the rails and tried to take it out on Nathaniel, he wouldn't make me delete it. After all, I had the perfectly valid excuse of clarifying the boyfriend situation due to a persistent male coworker. With that thought, my mood lifted. I flopped onto the bed, eagerly waiting to see Isolde's reaction. Ideally, something like her wanting to smash her phone, but forcing herself to pretend she was above it, holding her tongue. I couldn't wait. The next afternoon, I went for a stroll around the resort with a few female colleagues, snapping plenty of scenic photos along the way. By 12:30 p.m., we gathered on the second floor of the restaurant. The company had reserved 3 tables, and we were preparing for a big barbecue feast. The girls sat at one table, while the guys took the other 2. The girls were sipping juice, light and refreshing, while the male colleagues had opened bottles of wine, their spirits high. As the atmosphere got livelier, after a few rounds of drinks, one brave colleague decided to make a joke at Nathaniel's expense. To everyone's surprise, he just smiled faintly without getting upset. This only made everyone feel more at ease, and laughter and playful teasing filled the air. After we had eaten our fill, someone suggested playing a game. "All right, let's play. What do you want to play?" "Let's do the classic. Spin the bottle." One colleague quickly and skillfully placed an empty wine bottle on the table, excitement gleaming in her eyes. Whoever the bottle points to has to choose between truth or dare. "Sounds good," everyone eagerly agreed. With CEO Blackwood in the mix, no one dared to say no to playing. Even if someone was a bit socially anxious, they had to muster up the courage to join in. M&F's director Nora looked at Nathaniel with a smile. "Boss, would you like to join us too?" "Everyone's hoping you'll play, right?" The colleagues immediately chimed in. "Yeah, come on, boss, we'll have more fun with you." Nathaniel paused for a moment, then casually replied, "All right, I'll play with you for a bit." "Yay!" The employees cheered excitedly, as if they'd already won the game. Under Julian's lead, everyone headed to the villa behind the resort. It was fully equipped with a spacious living room, a pool table, a game room, a movie theater, a gym, and a bar, perfect for a party. We all sat on the floor in the large living room, forming a circle, with the empty wine bottle placed in the middle. Julian eagerly rubbed his hands together and volunteered. "All right, I'll go first. Let's see who's lucky enough to get picked first." He spun the bottle with force, and it spun quickly on the floor. Everyone held their breath, eyes glued to the bottle, as if they were betting on a race. Stop, quick, look, who's it pointing at?" The bottle gradually came to a halt, pointing at one of the male colleagues. Everyone let out a collective sigh of relief, then burst into teasing. "Elliot, congratulations, you're the lucky one. Truth or dare?" Elliot, the one pointed to, shrugged nonchalantly. "Truth." The group immediately erupted into a flurry of questions, like a comedy show with microphones. "Have you ever had a crush on anyone in the company?" "Who's your least favorite boss?" "Are you still a virgin?" When the last question was asked, the girls couldn't help but giggle, and the guys burst into laughter, egging him on with even more excitement. Elliot's face turned red, his ears burning. After a long pause, he awkwardly nodded. "Yes!" "Wow!" The room exploded with laughter and cheers, the teasing almost deafening. When the laughter died down, Elliot began to spin the bottle again. This time it pointed to another male colleague. "All right, your turn. Truth or dare?" The male colleague decisively replied, "Dare!" Elliot grinned mischievously. "Okay, I won't make it too hard for you. Just kiss the person to your right." The excitement in the room instantly skyrocketed as everyone turned to look at the male colleague's right-hand side. It was another guy. There was a brief moment of stunned silence, followed by uproarious laughter. The male colleague's face turned pale. The colleague to his right looked equally awkward, and they exchanged a glance that seemed to scream, "Help me!" "This isn't really appropriate," the male colleague chuckled nervously, trying to back out. "No way, the rules can't be broken. Come on, bro. Just a quick one. Make the sacrifice. We'll remember your brave sacrifice." Amid the chants, the 2 male colleagues reluctantly followed through with the dare. The first one quickly planted a kiss on his right-hand neighbor's cheek, then jumped up. All right, next." The group laughed so hard that some of the drinks nearly spilled. I sat quietly in the circle, watching everyone cheer and tease. The atmosphere grew more and more animated as the bottle kept spinning, and each person knew they might be the next target. As the game progressed, the questions gradually spiraled out of control, becoming more intense with each round. When was the first time you had sex? How long did you last the first time? 100% more daring. Some colleagues, caught off guard by such questions, turned bright red, hastily picking truth or dare. But dare wasn't exactly an easy escape. Can't answer? Then hug the CEO and spin around 3 times. Not willing? How about we take a look at your browser's search history? Answer: play with fire or drink 3 shots. The rules were simple, but with so many players, the rounds kept coming, turning the game into a nerve-wracking experience. As for me, I had remained untouched, as if the lunar goddess was looking out for me. But the lunar goddess wasn't on Nathaniel's side. After Elliot completed his dare, he spun the bottle again, excitement in his eyes. The bottle spun quickly, and everyone held their breath, waiting for it to slow down. Finally, it pointed to someone who shattered the atmosphere in the room. Nathaniel. The entire living room erupted. Oh, finally, the boss! Boss, we've been waiting for you. Elliot grinned slyly. CEO Blackwood, truth or dare? Truth. Well then, Elliot cleared his throat, excitement sparkling in his eyes. Was your first time with Miss Isolde? The room went completely silent. The sound of sharp breaths could be heard. Whoa, going straight for the big gun? Elliot really isn't afraid of dying. Everyone's eyes widened, ears perked, eagerly waiting for the answer. Nathaniel calmly raised his eyes, casting an almost imperceptible glance my way before speaking. No. Hiss. The room collectively drew a sharp breath. In an instant, everyone's minds were racing. Not? Wait, wasn't his ex-girlfriend Isolde? Holy shit, so who was it? Of course it's the boss, there's bound to be a story. But Nathaniel's response was so nonchalant, offering no room for further digging. But how could they just let it go? Elliot eagerly pressed on. Then who was it? Nathaniel, you only get one question. I've already answered. The whole room. This high-value answer was shut down by a rule limit. Everyone's faces fell in disappointment. Elliot, you're too naive. Should have just asked who from the start. Next time, definitely. Elliot gritted his teeth, but he didn't expect that next time to come so soon. After a few more rounds, the bottle stopped again. Once more, it pointed to Nathaniel. The entire room. Ha! Even the heavens couldn't resist getting involved. Boss, looks like you're not escaping today. This time, the question didn't come from Elliot, but from another male colleague. He slyly followed the group's earlier frustration and directly asked the key question. CEO Blackwood, who was your first time with? The air seemed to freeze for a moment. Everyone was so excited, it felt like they might jump out of their seats. But to everyone's surprise, Nathaniel was silent for a few seconds before calmly saying, "Pour me some wine." The room exploded. What, you're not going to say it? You're choosing to drink instead? Elliot, unwilling to give up, couldn't help but coax, "Boss, aren't you going to share? Really, you're going to drink?" Is it because this person's identity is special or classified? He stood up, took the wine bottle from an employee, and poured himself a large glass. He drank it all in one go, then poured another glass and drank it down as well. 3 glasses later, the bottle was empty. He put the glass down and spoke coolly, "Is that enough?" Everyone, fine. Although we still didn't hear the answer, Nathaniel would rather drink 3 glasses than speak. This meant the person's identity was highly significant. Someone muttered quietly, "If it was just an ex-girlfriend or some random prostitute, would he really be this cautious? Could it be someone we know? That's why he doesn't want to say?" The conversation veered into strange territory, but the game continued. After 2 more rounds, the bottle suddenly pointed to me. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly sat up straight. This time, the questioner was the male colleague who loved to joke around on the bus. He grinned mischievously at me. "Director Seraphina, truth or dare?" I took a deep breath. Truth. He wore a look that said, "I've been waiting for this," and then asked, "Well, I won't ask about you. Let's talk about your boyfriend." A bad feeling instantly washed over me. "You can ask." "I heard you have a boyfriend. How long is he?" My ears instantly turned bright red. The room went silent for half a second, and then laughter erupted like a bomb. "Ha! This question is savage! Oh my God, is today's game just one big unlimited scale upgrade?" I facepalmed, starting to regret not choosing dare. But who knows what they would have made me do if I had chosen dare? I took a deep breath, glancing at Nathaniel sitting across from me. He leisurely sipped his wine, a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth, as if he had known I would be asked this question. Fine, just sit back and watch. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, I cleared my throat and spoke in a serious tone. 20 centimeters. The entire room. The air seemed to freeze for a moment, and then, "Are you serious? Seraphina, are you for real?" The crowd burst into a mix of shock and laughter. Some slapped the table and laughed loudly, while others stared at me in disbelief, as if I had just dropped a bombshell. Wow, that answer was something. Director Seraphina, how do you know that so precisely? I gave a slight smile, my expression calm and with a touch of mystery. I shrugged. I can't reveal that. While the crowd continued to gossip excitedly, I casually spun the bottle, intending to shift the attention to someone else. But as luck would have it, the bottle stopped right in front of Nathaniel. The room went completely silent, and then, "Holy shit, this is insane! Talk about fate!" In an instant, Nathaniel and I exchanged glances. I narrowed my eyes and said seriously, "CEO Blackwood, will it be truth or dare?" Nathaniel stayed calm and collected. Truth. If it weren't for the setting, I honestly wanted to ask him a question that had been on my mind for a long time. Did he ever feel even the slightest bit of affection for me? But clearly, that wasn't a question for this occasion. Meanwhile, the crowd couldn't hold back any longer, shouting out suggestions. Ask him about his size. Ask him how old he was when he first did it. Ask him how many women he's been with. Nathaniel's size, I already knew that better than they did. As for the other two questions, honestly, I really didn't want to know. After all, I didn't care about his private life before we became mates, but the more I knew, the more uncomfortable it would make me. So, after a brief pause, I chose a question I truly didn't know the answer to, and spoke lightly. How did you and Miss Isolde meet and get together? The room instantly fell silent. The staff perked up, clearly waiting for Nathaniel to spill some top-tier gossip. Nathaniel's gaze flickered, and as our eyes met, I felt a shiver run through me. After a moment, he slowly said, "We met during a school event, we performed together, and after the performance, we got together." Someone excitedly asked, "Did you catch feelings during the rehearsal?" Nathaniel nodded. "Yeah, so that's how it happened." There was an indescribable feeling inside me. College romances are often beautiful and pure, and they're hard to forget. Before I fell for Nathaniel, I too had fantasized about having an intense, passionate college romance. But once I fell for him, that fantasy became impossible. By the time I was still a student, he had already inherited the title of the old Alpha, becoming the new Alpha of the Silvermoon Crest Pack, and then joined Silvermoon Corp, running this massive enterprise. I was always chasing after his footsteps. Just like Isolde said, she stood by Nathaniel, walking through the years of youth together side by side, which made their bond unforgettable. Thinking about this, I lowered my head and took a sip of wine to hide the slight pang of disappointment in my heart. The game continued, and I quickly managed to sneak through a few more rounds. Just then, my phone vibrated with a WhatsApp message. I thought it was someone with business to discuss, but when I looked, it was from Nathaniel. Just one short sentence. "You were 1 centimeter off earlier." The feeling of melancholy vanished in an instant. I shot my head up and saw Nathaniel casually sipping his drink, his lips curling into a slight smile, clearly enjoying the precise correction. Meanwhile, I, who hadn't even blushed when everyone teased me earlier, felt my face burn uncontrollably now. I glared at him and quickly sent a bomb emoji, shutting off my phone screen. However, the gossiping spirit of the game was far from dying down. The crowd seemed determined to dig up all of Nathaniel's secrets, so they started coming up with more ideas to make the bottle spin toward him again. And sure enough, they succeeded. This time, the questioning rights fell to Director Nora, who was already pondering how to uncover the mysterious woman's identity. But Nathaniel didn't give him the chance. This time, he decisively chose a dare. The male colleague issuing the dare smiled and said, "CEO Blackwood, from the 5th girl to your left, do 20 squats while holding her." That should be easy enough, right? It definitely sounded much simpler than the previous extreme dares. But just then, someone started quickly counting the people around. Hey, who's the fifth girl to the left? The next second, someone exclaimed, "It's Seraphina!" The room erupted in shock and laughter. "Seraphina, could you help us out here?" "Director Seraphina, your boyfriend shouldn't mind, right?" Nathaniel had already gotten up from the floor, turned to look at me, and with a gaze that seemed entirely natural, said, "Seraphina, come here." I silently stood up and walked toward him. The next moment, he effortlessly picked me up horizontally, as smoothly as if he were lifting weights at the gym. I froze, my hands tightly gripping his neck, not daring to move. And he, as if it were no challenge at all, began doing squats. 1, 2, 3. Soon he had completed 20 squats, stood firmly, and gently lowered me down. As the powerful alpha of this pack, Nathaniel carried me through 20 squats without breaking a sweat, his warm breath brushing against my cheek, making me instinctively hold my breath. Tsk, this is way too easy for the boss. Director Nora couldn't help but exclaim, "Yeah, 20 squats, no problem. Let's do it again." The crowd cheered, but unfortunately the game was coming to an end and officially wrapped up at 4 p.m. The staff, a mix of excitement and exhaustion, dragged themselves back to their rooms to catch up on some sleep. Violet and I, along with the others, returned to our rooms, preparing to collapse into bed for a much-needed rest when suddenly a message popped up on WhatsApp. "Nathaniel, how about a hot spring session at my place?" His intentions were clearer than the resort's weather. "I'm not going. I need to rest," I replied firmly. 2 seconds later, another message popped up. "Are you sure? We only have tomorrow left here. You really want to skip out on the big pool?" I hesitated for a moment before conceding, "I'll go soak later tonight." To my surprise, he immediately followed up with, "There's food debris at the bottom of the pool, and the hotel's announcement says you can't eat while soaking." This guy, he was worried I'd just finished soaking and run off. Rolling my eyes, I sent a resigned emoji. "Fine, I'll go after I eat." I leaned back against the headboard, scrolling through my phone. By chance, a trending hashtag caught my eye, Isolde German. Instinctively, I clicked on it. Isolde had returned home and participated in a variety show that aired today, and the trending topic was a clip from her appearance. In the video, she smiled and introduced herself. "I speak German." The other guests reacted with surprise, quickly egging her on. "Wow, can you say a few words?" She nodded and with grace replied, "Let me tell you a story in German." She then began to tell a story, her tone soft and flowing. I furrowed my brow, a sense of familiarity creeping in until she mentioned the story's title, The Crow and the Fox. A crow with a piece of cheese, the fox using sweet words to trick it into opening its mouth and eventually stealing the cheese. It was a classic fable, one everyone had heard as a child. But what made my chest tighten wasn't the story itself. It was her next words. The guests laughed and chimed in. "We've all heard this one, right?" Another guest asked, "Miss Isolde, you've been in France the last few years. What made you learn German? Was there a particular reason?" I tightened my grip on my phone, a bad feeling stirring in my chest. Sure enough, she smiled slightly and softly said, "Actually, I learned it from a friend. He speaks multiple languages, and whenever I couldn't sleep, he'd tell me German stories." The guests responded with a knowing, "Oh," their eyes twinkling with curiosity. I stared at the screen, my fingers tightening slightly. So, I wasn't the only one who had been the listener to Nathaniel's German stories. Even those gentle, soothing stories in German were ones she had heard first. I couldn't help but find it amusing. Just a few hours ago, during a game of Truth or Dare, I was secretly relieved. Nathaniel and Isolde had never had any substantial physical relationship. But now, what did that even matter? He loved her. He gave her all his warmth, patience, and passion without reserve. What about me? Being his mate for the past 3 years was nothing more than a transaction with the old Alpha. I had his body, but never his heart. Self-pityingly, I clicked on the OTP fan-created Twitter hashtags. Sure enough, new topics were flooding in. Fans had dug up a video of Nathaniel giving a German speech, proving that the friend who was indeed Nathaniel. Every time she couldn't sleep, he would tell her German stories. Ah, this is the kind of love you only see in fairy tales. Oh my God, he's so gentle with her. How could this not be love? Nathaniel and Isolde OTP is real, and I sat quietly, staring at the screen, feeling like a complete joke. Every time his mistress couldn't sleep, he'd tell her German stories. But when his mate couldn't sleep, where was he? At 8 p.m., Nathaniel's WhatsApp message popped up. Have you had dinner? Why aren't you coming over? I glanced at the message, closed the chat, and turned off my phone screen. 5 seconds later, my phone buzzed twice. Reply to me immediately, or I'll come to your room to find you. I couldn't help but smile slightly. I'm not coming tonight. His message came back almost instantly. Why not? Why didn't you answer me earlier? I didn't see it earlier. I'm a bit tired tonight. Don't feel like coming. It was obvious to anyone that it was an excuse. Nathaniel knew it too. Seraphina, tell me the truth. Why? What I said is the truth. I just need to rest. After sending the message, I waited for a while, holding the phone, but sure enough, he didn't reply. I sighed in relief, set the phone aside, and prepared to sleep. However, a few minutes later, there was a knock on the door. I froze. My instinct told me it was Nathaniel. Violet had already gotten out of bed, walked to the door, and sleepily asked, "Who is it?" Outside, Nathaniel's deep voice came through the door. It's me, looking for Seraphina. There's something I need to talk to her about. Oh, okay. Violet immediately responded, then called out to me, Director Seraphina, boss is looking for you. You should go see him. Reluctantly, I got up from the bed, walked to the door, and closed it behind me. I stood in the doorway and looked at Nathaniel. What are you doing here? Do you need something? What do you think? He stared at me, his tone dangerously low. I was about to say something to brush it off, but he interrupted me. Don't make excuses. Tell me the truth. What's going on? Are you in a bad mood? There's no reason. Just drop it. Did you watch Isolde's variety show? I fell silent for a second, my gaze drifting elsewhere. You're jealous, aren't you? No, that's not it. It's not about that. Don't jump to conclusions. I'm not jealous. I don't like you. A standard 5-time denial. However, Nathaniel's expression darkened for a moment. Seraphina, are you trying to go back on your promise to the old Alpha? I opened my mouth, but all I could say in a small voice was, not really. He took my hand, his tone low. You're bottling it up? Seraphina, I hope from now on you'll tell me directly if something's bothering you. Don't avoid it. Open communication is the right way to handle things. Otherwise, the gap between us will just grow wider. I'll ask again, is it because you saw Isolde's variety show and found out I taught her German and told her stories? No. I bit my lip, stubbornly refusing to admit it. He could tell, of course, that I was lying. I didn't want to admit I was jealous. Seraphina, you can't hold my past against the present me. What's done is done. It can't be erased. I'm not asking you to force yourself to accept it, but you need to understand, don't dwell on the past. The future is what matters most. If, in the end, I choose to be with you and we don't break the vow, then what does teaching her German matter? I lowered my head, pursing my lips, and said nothing. Do you still want to soak in the hot spring? Seeing I wasn't responding, Nathaniel continued, If you want to go, then pack your things and stay at my place tonight. Don't worry, it's the last night. I'll drive you out in the morning. No one will know. I hesitated for a few seconds, but eventually resigned myself and turned to go back to my room to pack my things. Violet saw me carrying my suitcase and asked curiously, Director Seraphina, are you leaving? Yes, something came up. I need to head back early. I answered without changing my expression. Oh, hope everything goes well. Thanks. Half an hour later in the hot spring pool, I leaned comfortably against the edge, letting out a deep sigh. Ah, this feels amazing. The atmosphere was perfect, completely washing away all my worries. But before I could fully relax, Nathaniel came over. He walked into the pool with ease, then without hesitation pulled me into his arms and whispered in my ear, Do you want to try a depth of 20 centimeters? My face immediately flushed, and I pushed him away. Is this all you think about? Is that why you insisted I come here? It's been 2 months. Who wouldn't want to? He said it with complete conviction. This man must be suffering from a serious case of thirst. You said it has to be with my consent. I didn't agree. He narrowed his eyes, slowly leaning in closer. Then will you help me out? I hesitated for a moment, raised my hand and wiggled my fingers. Nathaniel glanced at them, shaking his head. No, turn over, keep your legs together. 20 minutes later, my legs were sore and red, my body slumped in the water as I glared at him. But he seemed to be in a good mood, picking me up and patiently cleaning me off before carrying me to bed. The service couldn't have been more attentive. Before the sun even rose, Nathaniel yanked me out of bed. Let's go. We're heading back. We'll sleep in the car. I groggily shot him a glare. Are you a devil? We'll sleep when we get back, he replied calmly, showing no concern that I was a sleep-deprived mess. While the rest of the company was still enjoying their time at the resort, we left early. Once we got back to the pack house, I let myself completely unwind, sleeping until I woke up naturally. The first thing I did when I woke up was grab my phone, then I suddenly remembered. It was time to post that photo. I opened my status update, edited a post, and wrote, "Boyfriend," along with the half-hidden photo and set it to be visible to everyone. After posting, I tossed the phone aside and rolled back into bed. But the next second, my phone started vibrating like crazy. I picked it up to see the comment section was blowing up. Whoa, Seraphina, you're off the market. Those muscles, that chest, girl, you hit the jackpot, huh? That body screams workout. Is it really 20 centimeters? Who? Who in the comment section just spilled the truth like it was a game of truth or dare? I scrolled through the comments and saw one from a loud-mouthed male colleague who mentioned me. Yeah, it does look like 20 centimeters. Can we not do this? To make matters worse, Vivienne stormed into my WhatsApp with a barrage of voice messages. Darling, what's going on? Did you hide something from Alpha? Tell me everything. I held the phone, flipped onto my back, and calmly responded. That's him. Ah, my lunar goddess. His body, his chest. He's amazing. Wipe your drool. When was this photo taken? Have you come clean to Alpha about Little Howler? I paused for a moment before replying, Not yet. Please keep it quiet. I just wanted to annoy Isolde. Haha, when did you become so devious? Meanwhile, Lucian saw my status update and stared at the photo for a long time, his emotions conflicted. He was silent for a moment before sending me a message. When are you coming to visit me on set? I glanced at my schedule and casually responded, I have some free time. What day works for you? Lucian, I think tomorrow would be perfect. Fine. Tomorrow it is. On the other side, Isolde, who had just finished filming a few shots on set, casually checked her status update, and then her anger shot through the roof. Her nails nearly dug into her palms. Others might not have noticed, but she recognized it instantly. The man in the photo was Nathaniel. Seraphina, that bitch. Seraphina was definitely provoking her. She must have seen the status update Isolde posted earlier and was getting back at her this way. But what if this status update was only visible to her? Isolde gripped her phone tightly, holding herself back for a moment before dialing Nathaniel. The phone rang, and it was only near the end of the call that he answered. Hello, Isolde. Nathaniel's voice was still cold, sending a chill down her spine. She opened her mouth, hesitated, and finally asked, Nathaniel, did you see Seraphina's status update? Isolde blinked in surprise, a hint of confusion growing in her chest. Wasn't the status update only visible to her? She took a deep breath, biting her lip, and asked, So, is the man in that photo you? There was a brief silence on the other end. Then Nathaniel answered without hesitation. Yes, it's me. Isolde's fingers tightened on the phone. She was about to press him further when... Don't overthink the update, Nathaniel interrupted her, his tone still indifferent. Someone at the company is pursuing her. She told them she has a boyfriend, but that person didn't believe her, so she had to prove it. The words froze in Isolde's throat. Nathaniel's explanation left her speechless. Her face turned ashen. Nathaniel, defending Seraphina? Isolde felt like her lungs were about to burst from anger. Seraphina? What a schemer! Not only did she manage to get Nathaniel to take intimate photos with her, but she also got him to explain her actions in a status update. Now she was playing the innocent card, forcing Nathaniel to explain everything. Bitch! If Seraphina's goal was to disgust her, then she had succeeded. Isolde was thoroughly disgusted. Early on Saturday, I arrived at the Astral Dominion set as planned. I called Lucian, and he came out to greet me in person. It's your first time on set. Is there anything you need to do? I asked casually as we walked. Lucien chuckled. No need. A visit's just a formality, more like a way of saying hi. I only have some free time around noon. We could grab lunch together. I nodded. Sounds good. Lucien first took me to say hello to the director, then led me to the set. The crew was filming an action scene with most of the set built in the studio, which meant I could watch the whole process. Just wait here. It'll be my turn soon. I found a spot with a great view and watched as Lucien got ready. Before long, he entered the scene. As soon as the camera started rolling, he transformed. Every movement exuded charm, and his character came to life effortlessly. I couldn't help but murmur, "You're really good at this." "The director seems pleased with my performance," he replied. I watched for a while, but soon my bladder protested. I found an excuse to head to the bathroom. As I pushed open the door, I collided with someone. Looking up, I found Isolde frowning, her gaze filled with displeasure. "Seraphina, what are you doing here?" Her tone made it sound like I was an unwanted guest. I gave a lazy smile. "Just visiting the set." Her expression soured even more. "Visiting whose set?" "Of course, I'm here to visit yours. I just wanted to see how angry I made you yesterday." I smiled sweetly, though my voice dripped with provocation. Isolde sneered. "I knew it. Your status update was aimed at me." "So, does that mean you saw my status update night?" I teased. Her eyes flickered with a hint of smugness as she deliberately lowered her voice. "How did it feel knowing Nathaniel snuck off to see me in the middle of the night?" I lazily looked at her, a slight smirk curling on my lips. "Stop kidding yourself." "Do you really think Nathaniel sneaked off to see you?" I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "If you're so sure he's going to be yours eventually, why bother posting a status update to provoke me? You're just insecure, aren't you?" Her face shifted slightly, but she quickly raised her chin in defiance. "Seraphina, do you dare to bet with me?" I glanced at her, offering a mocking smile, but saying nothing. She immediately became smug. "What, you're scared? Afraid of losing to me?" I snorted. "I'm doing just fine. Why would I bet with you?" I paused and added, in a teasing tone, "By the way, I forgot to tell you. This morning, Nathaniel and I just got back from the hot spring resort. We took a dip in the hot springs. He really is something every time. He has to cause a stir in the hot springs." I sighed dramatically, adding weight to my words. "You wouldn't believe it, but Alpha Fujeng is so, well, strong in that department. He always needs to take his time." Then I glanced at her with a smile, deliberately dragging my words out. "Oh, and by the way, he mentioned that when you two were dating, he never touched you. Isn't that right?" Isolde's face instantly changed. She almost ground her teeth as she snarled my name. "Seraphina, you bitch!" "I'm right here. Why are you shouting my name?" I blinked innocently and smiled sweetly. Could it be he really never touched you? It must be true. Nathaniel and I have this mate connection, so I would sense if he did something behind my back. Her face turned an even deeper shade of rage, her eyes burning with fury. That was Nathaniel's respect for me. Unlike you, who got tangled up in bed with him and only became Luna by selling your body, what's the difference between you and a prostitute? I shrugged casually, my tone as calm as ever. The key point is, I'm Luna. And you, for the rest of your life, will always be the mistress. Isolde clenched her fists tightly, her gaze dark and brooding. So what? Then she suddenly sneered, her voice dripping with malice. Do you believe that with one phone call, Nathaniel will come visit my set? Without waiting for a response, she dialed Nathaniel's number in front of me, deliberately turning on the speakerphone, her eyes locked onto mine as though victory was already hers. What is it? Came Nathaniel's deep voice through the speaker. She immediately cooed sweetly. Nathaniel, it's me. I've been on set for a while, but you still haven't come to visit me. I don't have many scenes to shoot today. Do you think you could come see me? Afterward, let's have dinner together? The whole room fell silent for a second. On the other end of the line, there was silence. I held on to a sliver of hope, wishing he'd refuse. But Nathaniel agreed. All right. My heart sank, as if it had been yanked out from under me. Why wasn't he worried about the media catching him this time? Great. I'll be waiting for you on set. After hanging up, a smug smile spread across Isolde's face, her eyes gleaming with victory. Seraphina, Do you get it now? She said, lowering her voice on purpose, her tone dripping with provocation. Nathaniel always does whatever I ask. He doesn't like you, I shot back. She leisurely fixed her hair, then added with a sly smile, On September 20th, all I have to do is make one call, and he'll come running. Don't believe me? Just wait and see. I stiffened slightly. It felt like a knife had been driven into my chest, a cold wind rushing in. The day Nathaniel and I became mates also happened to be my rival's birthday, a thorn in my heart I could never pull out. If Nathaniel really goes to her on that day, I don't even know how much more disappointed I'd be. Just wait, Isolde said with a satisfied grin, lifting her chin before walking off with light, confident steps. I stood there for a moment, took a deep breath, and collected my thoughts before heading back to the set to watch Lucian act. Not long after, a commotion suddenly broke out outside. A staff member rushed in, excited, and reported to the director. CEO Blackwood is here to visit the set. He's here to see Miss Isolde. The director immediately grabbed a megaphone. Break! Everyone take a break. We'll resume shooting in a while. Then, he went out to greet him personally. Pfft! What a grand entrance. How's it going? Am I doing all right? Lucian asked, walking up to me, a touch of pride in his voice, like a big dog waiting for a compliment. I casually replied, Not bad. You really got the vibe. From the director's expression, it was clear he was very pleased with Lucian's performance. He barely had any NGs throughout the scene. At that moment, a staff member walked in with 4 large bags, filled with the latest trendy drinks. Here, CEO Blackwood is treating everyone to drinks. 1 drink per person, and if there's not enough, there's more outside. I looked down at the drinks and couldn't help but sneer. Ha, how showy. Lucian grabbed a cup and handed it to me, whispering in my ear, Your mate's here. Want to go say hi? Go ahead. Even if I didn't go, Lucian had to. After all, he was the lead actor and one of the investors in the film, while Nathaniel was the largest investor. It wouldn't be right not to greet him. We walked out of the studio together. Outside, the director was chatting warmly with Nathaniel. Isolde stood next to Nathaniel, her arm looped through his. When she saw me, she deliberately flashed a provocative smile, then gently rested her head on Nathaniel's shoulder. The closeness was almost blinding. The director saw Lucian and waved with a smile. Come on, let me introduce you to CEO Blackwood. This is Lucian Thornhart. Before the director could finish, Nathaniel interrupted. We're quite familiar. Quite familiar? This guy seems to be getting along too well with his mate. CEO Blackwood, Lucian greeted politely. Nathaniel gave a brief nod, but his gaze never left me. How long have you been here? I responded casually. Just a little over an hour. The director suddenly perked up, laughing as he said, What a coincidence. CEO Blackwood is here to visit Isolde's set, and director Seraphina is here to visit Lucian's set. How about we all have lunch together? My treat. What do you say? That's very generous of you, director. Since it was almost lunchtime, the director decided to wrap up the shoot and took us to a nearby restaurant where he reserved a private room. Once seated, the director cheerfully said, Feel free, don't hold back. Lucian smiled and said, Thanks in advance, director. Don't worry, director. We definitely won't hold back, Isolde chimed in, her tone playful. I opened the menu, ready to order, when Lucian's voice came from beside me. Still in the mood for foie gras and caviar? I casually replied, Sure, let's go with that. The director caught sight of our interaction and suddenly chuckled. Wow, Lucian, you really know Seraphina's tastes. You too. How did you meet? Lucian glanced at me and smiled. She was my neighbor when we were kids, always crying. Then my family moved away, and we haven't seen each other in years. Childhood sweethearts, huh? That's quite a bond. If something good comes from this, make sure to let me know. Director Roderick, please don't start matchmaking. Seraphina and I are just friends, Lucian said with a helpless smile, though his tone betrayed a hint of urgency. What a joke. Her mate was sitting right across from us. I get it, the assistant director chimed in, grinning. You know, these days, the younger generation loves to say we're just friends. Nathaniel raised his eyes, glancing at Lucian and me before furrowing his brow slightly. Nathaniel? Nathaniel? Huh? Nathaniel snapped back to attention, turning to look at Isolde. Isolde gave me a meaningful look, her voice low. Don't you think Seraphina and Lucian would make a good couple? If you two broke up, her being with Lucian wouldn't be a bad choice. Nathaniel didn't hesitate for a second, shaking his head firmly. No, they're not right for each other. How can you be so sure? I've looked into their personalities and work, Nathaniel said, his tone resolute. I quietly watched the conversation unfold, a strange feeling stirring in my chest. I lowered my gaze, poking at my food. The waiter brought out the next round of dishes, and everyone began eating without reservation. Lucian, ever thoughtful, placed a piece of foie gras on my plate. Try this. Thank you. The foie gras was delicate and rich in flavor, and I nodded approvingly. It's good. Lucian was considerate throughout the meal, occasionally adding dishes to my plate, all of which I liked. Nathaniel kept his eyes fixed on us, his expression growing darker by the second. Nathaniel, could you pass me that over there? I can't reach it, Isolde said, her eyes flashing slightly. This was the second time she had noticed Nathaniel zoning out. Nathaniel finally refocused and politely helped Isolde with her request. I watched him, unable to suppress a bitter laugh in my mind. Halfway through the meal, I got up to go to the restroom. The restroom had a shared wash area, and after coming out of the stall, I washed my hands and quickly touched up my makeup in the mirror. Then, Nathaniel walked in. He stood behind me, pressing his hands on the sink, trapping me in his arms. I jumped in surprise, looking at him in the mirror. What are you doing? I need to talk to you. I don't want to listen. I stuffed my makeup back into my bag, trying to sidestep him. But, Nathaniel lowered his head and kissed me, his arm tightening around me, trapping me against the sink. His lips and tongue tangled with mine, relentless and uninvited. Wait, wasn't he here for Isolde? But all night, his gaze had never left me. When he saw me interact with Lucian so closely, his face had darkened like a storm cloud, as if someone had stepped on his tail. Maybe he was trying to warn me off Lucian, but I hadn't listened, and now he was bottling up his frustration? I pushed against his chest, struggling. No, I need to go back. Nathaniel furrowed his brow and instead of releasing me, tightened his embrace, his hand locking the back of my head as he deepened the kiss. When he finally pulled away, my lips were swollen, and I shot him a furious glare. I checked myself in the mirror. My freshly touched-up makeup was completely ruined. Nathaniel let out a low laugh, suddenly pulling me back into his arms from behind. He rested his chin on my temple, staring at me in the mirror. His fingers traced my lips lightly. It looks good like this, too. I was speechless. Let go. I need to go back. Back? Nathaniel snorted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Back to keep showing off your love with Lucian Thornhart? I frowned. How was I showing off anything? This guy, was he really that jealous? Don't mention Lucian to me. Aren't you just like Isolde? It's different. I let out a cold laugh. How is it different? You still went to see Isolde, didn't you? I knew you were here. Arya had told him I came to check on Lucian. He had planned to come and bring me back. But then Isolde's call came in, which in a way worked in his favor. Nathaniel grasped my chin, forcing my head to tilt, then leaned down and kissed my lips. His other hand slid dangerously around my waist, his touch skilled and confident. My body went weak, and I nearly collapsed into his arms. I felt a hint of wetness at my fingertips. Nathaniel released my lips and, still holding me, guided me toward the bathroom. His expression was one of casual certainty. Let me take care of this for you. What? Are you out of your mind? I asked, my face flushed. In broad daylight in a place like this? Nathaniel looked at my distressed face and chuckled lightly. Then don't make a sound. His voice carried an edge of danger that only made my heart race faster. He pinned me against the door, his breath hot against my neck, his fingers slipping further. But there are people waiting for us. In the private room. Let them wait. I fell silent for a moment, closing my eyes and biting my lip to hold back my emotions. I was struggling, fighting against the urge to give in. I didn't know if it was because I was pregnant or if Nathaniel's techniques were simply improving, but I noticed my needs seemed to be growing stronger lately, and it made me uneasy. I was never like this before. What are you thinking about? Nathaniel sensed I was distracted, his tone sharp with irritation. How could I be distracted while in his arms? Was I still thinking about Lucian? Did I really like him that much? Was Lucian the one I had been waiting for all this time? The thought made Nathaniel's mood darken instantly. His face fell and his hand sped up in its movements. "Ah, slow down." As the words left my mouth, I couldn't stop what was happening. I couldn't help but let out a soft moan, my whole body trembling. Nathaniel finally pulled away, fixing his clothes with a calm, detached look. "Done. Let's go." I leaned against the door for a moment, struggling to steady myself. My legs were weak, and I barely managed to walk out of the stall. Nathaniel was washing his hands with meticulous care, casually glancing up at me a few times. My face burned even hotter. I hurried out of the bathroom and back to the private room, sitting down quickly. Lucian looked at me confused. "What took you so long?" "I wasn't feeling well." I lied, forcing the words out. "You're not feeling well? Should we go to the hospital?" "No, it's nothing serious." Isolde squinted slightly, recalling what she had witnessed earlier when she came to look for Nathaniel. She could barely contain her fury at the sight of what had happened between us. If she could, she would tear Seraphina apart right then and there. But she had to hold herself together. Clenching her fists, her nails digging into her palms and leaving crescent-shaped marks, she forced a smile and asked, "Seraphina, what happened to your lips?" "They got bitten by a mosquito." The assistant director casually chimed in, "It'll be better once the weather gets colder. The mosquitoes will go away." "Yeah," I quickly agreed, nodding along. Just then, Nathaniel returned from outside, sitting down in his place as though nothing had happened. "Sorry, I bumped into an acquaintance and had to chat for a bit. Lost track of time." "Totally understandable. When you see someone, you have to catch up," Director Roderick said with a laugh. I forced a smile and glanced at the man spinning his tales. His excuse sounded far more sophisticated than my own "not feeling well" excuse. Suddenly, my body stiffened, and I looked down surreptitiously at the space under the table. Nathaniel's leather shoe was brushing against my calf, as if completely unconcerned. I shifted my posture, trying to maintain my composure. The next moment, I felt the cold tip of his shoe brushing my leg again, this time even closer. He was softly feeding Isolde some vegetables, his voice tender. "I remember you like this. Eat more." Isolde laughed lightly. "That's too much. I can't finish it. You should eat it for me." I shot him a furious glare. Under the table, his shoe didn't retreat, but slowly moved higher. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. How had I never noticed before? Nathaniel was so cruel. After what felt like endless torture, lunch finally came to an end. The others were heading back to the set. Isolde linked her arm through Nathaniel's sleeve, her tone soft and reluctant. Nathaniel opened the car door for her, preparing to send her off. Isolde stood by the door, casting a glance at me and smiling as she asked, "Nathaniel, my birthday is coming up. I was thinking of having a party. What do you think?" Nathaniel paused for a moment when he heard her words. The scene from that day flashed in his mind, when Seraphina had confronted him, her eyes red with frustration. "You really care for her, don't you? Even our anniversary you spend remembering her. If you care for her so much, why didn't you just wait for her? Why did you choose me to be your mate? I'm not the only one for you. Why are you doing this to me?" Nathaniel loosened his collar with a casual motion, his voice cool. "I had something that day. You can either choose an earlier or later date. It's up to you." Isolde's heart sank. He had something that day. The meaning was clear, unspoken. She tugged at the corners of her mouth, forcing a smile, and hooked her arm through his, pouting coquettishly. "What was it? Couldn't you reschedule? It's been a long time since you've spent my birthday with me." "I know, but I'm sorry." "Nathaniel, this is my first birthday back at Silvermoon Crest Pack. It's rare for us to be together." "Be good," Nathaniel said in a low voice. Isolde's smile froze on her face. Once they got into the car, her expression darkened. Her premonition had been repeatedly confirmed. Nathaniel was clearly beginning to push her aside. Time and time again, he chose Seraphina. Had he really fallen for her? No, she wouldn't allow it. Nathaniel watched as their car disappeared from view, then turned to look at me. "Let's go, back to the pack house." On the way, Nathaniel moved closer, wrapping his arm around my waist, nearly pressing his body against mine. A strong scent of expensive perfume filled the air, and my stomach churned, nearly making me gag. "Stay away from me." I paled, pulling myself free from his embrace. What's wrong? Nathaniel furrowed his brow, his gaze deepening as he looked at my pale face. I'm fine, just a bit caresick. I'll be okay in a minute, I said dismissively, leaning slightly to the side. Nathaniel's gaze darkened, but he didn't say anything else. The weekend flew by, and the new work week arrived. September 20th came faster than I had imagined. Before the evening shift ended, Nathaniel sent me a message. Wait for me in the garage after work. We're going out for dinner tonight. Okay. After work, I made my way to the underground garage, found his car, and sat in the passenger seat, waiting for him. I absent-mindedly glanced down and noticed a small box in the storage compartment. It was unmistakably a ring box. I hesitated for a moment, but couldn't resist opening it. Inside was indeed a finely designed ring. Could this be the anniversary gift Nathaniel had prepared for me? I quietly placed the ring back, trying to compose myself, when the car door suddenly opened. Nathaniel slid in, starting the car as he asked, "Have you been waiting long? We'll head out now." No. He focused on driving, speaking in his calm, steady voice. "Michelin restaurant, I've already made a reservation." I raised an eyebrow. "Sounds good." The car smoothly pulled up in front of the Michelin restaurant, and the valet came to help park the car. Nathaniel naturally took my hand and led me inside. The waiter guided us to the reserved private room. As soon as the door opened, I froze. The room's decorations were far more romantic than I had expected. Soft, warm yellow lights filled the space, candle flames flickering gently, a large bouquet of roses centered on the dining table, and heart-shaped cushions scattered on the sofa. I looked around, my emotions mixed. "Congratulations on your 3rd anniversary. May your love shine forever, and may you write every page of happiness together." The waiter smiled and said, "This romantic candlelit dinner was specially arranged by Mr. Fu. Please enjoy." I turned to look at Nathaniel, his gaze heavy, as if waiting for my reaction. "Let's go inside." Nathaniel stepped forward, picked up the bouquet of roses from the table, and stopped in front of me, offering the flowers with a gaze that was both deep and gentle. "My dear Luna, happy 3rd anniversary." His voice was low and husky, carrying the natural magnetism of an alpha, wrapping me in warmth like a gentle current. The flickering candlelight danced, and his features were illuminated in the soft glow, making him look even more sculpted, like a statue. His high, chiseled cheekbones cast a soft shadow, while his gaze burned hotter than the flickering flames. I held the flowers in my arms, staring at him, my nose stinging slightly. He had never called me that before. The term was both foreign and familiar, sending a sharp tremor through my heart. "Sit down," he said softly, taking the bouquet from my hands and pulling out the chair for me. The air was thick with the scent of roses, mixed with his unmistakable alpha aura, calm, commanding, and undeniably enticing. It made my heart race, impossible to resist. The dishes on the table were elegantly arranged, clearly crafted with care by the restaurant. I smiled and asked, "When did you book this place?" "A week in advance. What do you think?" "It's nice," I replied with a small smile. Nathaniel gave a slight smile of his own, then picked up a small box resting on the petals and slid it toward me. "Open it. See if you like it." The box was exquisitely crafted, square, with red lacquer and delicate carvings on the surface. Its appearance alone made it look incredibly expensive. Its size, could it be a bracelet? "I'll open it." I carefully lifted the lid. Inside, nestled in velvet, lay a jade bracelet, translucent like ice, with a faint glow. I froze. It wasn't just the beauty of the bracelet, but this bracelet looked strikingly similar to the heart of the ocean I had seen at the auction. But I knew for certain it wasn't the same one. Nathaniel couldn't have gotten it from Isolde and given it to me. Noticing my hesitation, Nathaniel explained lightly, "Last time you mentioned that the material for the heart of the ocean was large enough to make more than just a bracelet. So I had someone keep an eye out, and sure enough, this is the second piece. I bought it from the original owner." "Thank you." I closed the box and set it aside. "Aren't you going to try it on?" "I'll try it when I get back." Maybe this bracelet was valuable, and maybe Nathaniel put a lot of effort into it. But my mood didn't lift in the slightest because of this gift. From the start, he had gone in the wrong direction. I didn't want a bracelet like the heart of the ocean. Not at all. The heart of the ocean belonged to Isolde. I didn't want to have a copy of it. Ironically, it felt like I would always be second to her. She got it first, and then it was my turn. Thinking of the ring in the car, it wasn't meant for me. Who was it meant for? The answer was clear. After this candlelit dinner, Nathaniel was probably rushing off to celebrate Isolde's birthday. He was certainly busy. I cautiously spoke up. Earlier in your car, I saw a ring. It was delicately designed, and the craftsmanship was amazing. I really liked it. Could you give it to me? We had been mates for 3 years, but we'd never had a true couple's ring. Once, I secretly bought a pair, wore one to work, hoping he would notice, but he only glanced at it and said, "If we wear matching rings, it'll be too obvious." I naively laughed and said, "If just one person wears it, no one will notice." Later, one of the rings disappeared, and the other one I tossed into a corner, gathering dust. Nathaniel seemed a little embarrassed, offering a faint smile. "That ring was custom-made. If you like it, I can have the designer make you one." No matter what, I could never beat Isolde. That ring was so beautifully crafted. The custom process must have started long ago. It took time and effort. And my bracelet? It was just a matter of throwing money at it. That was the difference. But after all, Nathaniel did spend a lot on the bracelet, so I didn't want to spoil his mood. Nathaniel, seemingly unaware of my emotions, assumed I was just throwing a small tantrum. He smiled and poured a small amount of wine into my glass, handing it to me. "Want to drink a little?" I took the glass and nodded softly. The glasses clinked, producing a crisp sound. I brought the rim to my lips, took a small sip, and began to eat. As usual, Nathaniel took my steak, carefully cut it into small pieces, and pushed it back toward me. "Thank you." I forked a piece of steak into my mouth, chewing thoughtfully. "This restaurant makes good steak. If you like it, I'll bring you here again next time." We raised our glasses again, lightly clinking them, our gazes meeting in the candlelight, carrying an unspoken meaning. The wine slid down my throat, and my face warmed slightly. I wasn't sure if it was the alcohol or some inexplicable emotion stirring inside me. Nathaniel set down his utensils and stood. "I'm going to the bathroom." I looked up, watching his straight-backed figure as my fingers unconsciously tightened around my wine glass. I thought, if Nathaniel were to ask me for intimacy tonight, I don't think I'd refuse. But just then, his phone, which had been sitting on the table, suddenly rang. I instinctively reached for it. The screen lit up with a familiar name. Isolde Thornfield. When I saw Isolde's name on the screen, my heart stopped for a moment. Her words from that day flashed in my mind. She had that Nathaniel would do anything for her, that with just a phone call, she could make him leave. I didn't hesitate. I immediately pressed the decline button, but within 2 seconds, the phone rang again. I hit decline once more. I knew she would probably call again and again. So, without a second thought, I deleted both call logs, then powered off Nathaniel's phone and placed it back in its usual spot. Just then, Nathaniel opened the door and walked in, sitting across from me and resuming his dinner, seemingly unaware of anything unusual. After a while, seeing that I hadn't continued eating, Nathaniel asked, "Are you done? Want to try the dessert here?" "Sure," I nodded, calling the waiter over. I opened the menu and chose 2 desserts. The waiter took the menu and left. Suddenly, the door to the private room was flung open. Both Nathaniel and I looked up, only to see that the person standing at the door was not the waiter, but Noah Thornfield, Isolde's brother. "Noah, what are you doing here? Come sit down, have something to eat," Nathaniel asked, his voice calm. "Eat? Eat what?" Noah stormed in, his voice urgent. "You're here having a peaceful candlelit dinner while outside everything is falling apart. Do you even know what's happening?" "What's going on?" Nathaniel set his utensils down, his brow furrowing in concern. "My sister was filming when the crew made a mistake, trapping her in a fire. She's seriously burned. The whole place is about to explode, and you're still here eating? Why didn't you answer your phone?" Noah said, almost shouting. Noah's sister referred to Isolde. "Serious burns?" My face turned pale when I heard that. The call earlier, a sense of unease flooded over me, and I whispered to him, "Noah, calm down. Isolde should already be in the hospital, right? What we're waiting for now is news from the operating room, not for you to come here and blame Nathaniel." Noah glared at me, sneering, "Shut up. Don't think just because you're Luna now you can interrupt our conversation. If my sister hadn't been forced out, Luna would never have been you." I instantly went pale. Noah's words hit me like a slap across the face. I knew he always believed I had stolen Nathaniel away from Isolde, but I hadn't expected Noah to show this kind of attitude in front of Nathaniel. Nathaniel, however, coldly stared at me. He picked up his phone and asked, "Did you touch my phone when I went out earlier?" I met his icy gaze and my heart sank. It almost felt like it was being swallowed whole. My hands clenched involuntarily and my body began to shake. I took a deep breath and answered coldly, "Yes, someone called you earlier, so I turned off the phone." "Seraphina, why did you do that? Why?" I lowered my head, my eyes losing their shine, a bitter smile laced with despair. "She called you at a time like this because she wanted you to come. Is it wrong that I don't want you to go see another woman? Am I so wrong for having jealousy, for not wanting to see the two of you in love? Is that so wrong?" I didn't want to say these things. It felt like I was the abandoned woman, but the words came out as if forced, uncontrollably surging from my chest. Nathaniel continued to look at me, his Adam's apple bobbing slightly. "Alpha Nathaniel, stop wasting time with her. Go to the hospital and check on Isolde. Her injuries are severe. The fire caused her great trauma. Dr. Pack said the situation is bad." Noah interrupted our conversation. Nathaniel raised his hand, loosened his collar, furrowed his brow, and lowered his head, falling into silence. "Nathaniel, what are you still hesitating for? Do you know that when Isolde called you, the fire hadn't completely spread? She depends on you so much, trusts you so completely. If you had answered the phone, she wouldn't have gotten hurt. Now, can you really bear to leave her lying alone on a hospital bed, unsure if she'll survive?" "I understand. Take Seraphina back to Crimson Hollow Estate," Nathaniel said coldly, as if he had made up his mind, stepping toward the door. I suddenly stepped forward, calling his name. "Nathaniel, don't forget what today is. Isolde's injured, and Dr. Pack is taking care of her. She doesn't need you." I was about to break down. In Nathaniel's heart, everything I was couldn't compare to Isolde. I couldn't take it anymore. My heart was filled with jealousy that was nearly driving me mad. Let me be the cold, heartless woman for once. I just wanted Nathaniel today, all of him, completely mine. Nathaniel stopped, turned around, and looked at me. "I know what today is, but Isolde's injuries are serious. I have to see her." With that, he turned and walked out the door. "Nathaniel, are you really going to leave?" Nathaniel didn't look back. His footsteps were steady as he walked out the door. "Nathaniel, you're unbelievable. If you walk out that door today, it's over for us." I gritted through my teeth, my eyes fixed on his retreating back, my voice seething with anger and finality. Nathaniel paused for a moment, but under the weight of my gaze, he continued to walk away without a second glance. As his figure faded into the distance, a hollow feeling washed over me. I braced myself against the table, struggling to stay upright, the world around me turning a dull gray. My heart shattered completely. He was gone. He had really left. I had threatened him with our future, and he still chose to walk away. It dawned on me that the so-called harmony I thought we shared was nothing more than a false bubble he had created. When my relationship with Isolde started to fray, he didn't hesitate to take her side. "Stop pretending. My sister is in the hospital after being hurt. Enough with your drama," Noah sneered. I slapped him hard across the face, the sound sharp and filled with fury. Noah froze for a moment, then glared at me, covering his cheek. "Are you out of your mind? Isolde was Nathaniel's first love, but now she's destroying someone else's family. She's nothing but a mistress, and I'm the Luna, blessed by the moon goddess, recognized by the AAA pack," I shouted angrily, my voice cracking with emotion. I swung my hand, sending the small box on the table tumbling to the ground with a loud thud. Inside, the bracelet shattered into pieces, scattering everywhere. I grabbed my bag and phone, pushing past Noah, and stormed out of the restaurant. "Where are you going? Let me take you home," Noah called after me. "Get lost." "No, I'm taking you," he said, stepping in front of me and grabbing my arm. I shook him off with all my strength, my voice hoarse but filled with rage. "Get the hell away from me!" Noah stood still, stunned. I hadn't realized it, but my eyes were already swollen, tears blurring my vision. I screamed, "You're all assholes! Stay the hell away from me!" With that, I turned and walked away. Noah didn't follow. At that moment, my mind went blank. I walked forward, aimlessly, not knowing where I was headed. Isolde had been right. I never dared to bet with her, because I knew from the start that this was a game I was bound to lose. On our anniversary, Nathaniel still went to see Isolde. His eyes were fixed on her, completely ignoring the fact that I had been humiliated by his friends. I had lost. Completely. How laughable. Just a few days ago, Nathaniel was talking about promises from the old Alpha, but now he had thrown it all away. He said he wanted to treat me right, yet on our anniversary, he left me behind to see Isolde. When Noah told him Isolde was in trouble, he didn't even bother to confirm the details before rushing off. His heart had long since left me. I could see it in the ring. Maybe Noah's presence had given Nathaniel the perfect excuse to leave. They say you can tell if a man loves his mate by how his friends treat her. Now, I finally understood that saying. Nathaniel didn't care about me, so his friends felt free to belittle me. Even though I was the Luna. Nathaniel cared about Isolde, so his friends treated her like royalty. Suddenly, I was knocked to the ground by a force from behind. My bag flew from my hands. The person picked it up quickly and fled. My head buzzed, and it took me a while to realize that I had just bumped into a thief. A sharp pain in my lower abdomen left me unable to move. All I could think was, my baby can't be harmed. I clutched my stomach tightly, squatting on the ground, trying to recover for a long while. When the pain began to subside, I slowly managed to stand up, dazed and unsure of what to do next. Should I chase after him, or should I call for help? But the thief had already disappeared into the crowd. Suddenly, a wave of confusion washed over me, and I didn't know what to do. I mindlessly took a few steps forward, only to realize that my phone and wallet were still in my bag. I had no money now, and it seemed even getting home was going to be a problem. I hailed a cab on the side of the road and asked the driver to take me to the entrance of Crimson Hollow Estate. Brecken from the security team helped me cover the fare. When I arrived home, Arya was cleaning. She looked up in surprise when she saw me returning alone and asked, "Luna, what happened? Why is your clothes so dirty?" I looked down and saw a large stain on my clothes, with noticeable bruises and scrapes on my elbows and knees. "I'm fine, just a little fall. I'll take a shower and change into something clean," I said softly. I went upstairs, changed into fresh clothes, took a shower, and then collapsed onto my bed, falling into a deep sleep. The next morning I woke up, propping myself up to climb out of bed. The bed beside me was empty. Clearly no one had come back. After breakfast, I used my iPad to request leave from Julian, then went to the bank and service center. After getting a new bank card, I bought a new phone and re-downloaded all the apps I had used before, logging into my previous accounts. Fortunately, I had the habit of backing up important files to the cloud. The other files that were lost didn't matter much to me. As I scrolled through my status update, I saw a new post. This morning, Cassandra updated her status. "Don't disturb them." The accompanying image was of Nathaniel sitting beside Isolde's hospital bed, watching over her from behind. At that moment, my heart had grown numb, my emotions barely registering at all. In the afternoon, I checked my work schedule and notified my assistant that I was changing my business trip for the end of the month to today. I would be leaving this afternoon. I calmly packed my luggage, prepared everything, and then told my assistant to take the work materials directly to the airport. Nathaniel's POV. Inside the car, Seraphina's cold words kept echoing in my mind. "Nathaniel, if you walk out that door today, we're done for good." I closed my eyes, trying to calm myself. If it hadn't been for me, Isolde wouldn't be in this situation. Now that she's in trouble, I can't just turn my back. After all, if, as Noah said, Isolde was calling me for help, then I truly can't escape responsibility. Once I see with my own eyes that Isolde is all right, I'll go back and explain things to Seraphina. I pressed down on the gas pedal, speeding toward the Moonlight Healing Center. Upon arriving at the PAC hospital, I quickly asked for Isolde's room number and made my way there. In the room, Cassandra was sitting by her side. "How is she?" I asked, stepping inside. Cassandra immediately stood up. "Alpha Nathaniel, you finally arrived. I tried calling you, but your phone was off." Isolde is still unconscious, but thankfully, her face wasn't injured. If her face had been harmed, her career might be over. Nathaniel, you don't know how dangerous the situation was. I heard she was burned. Is it serious? I asked, my heart tightening. Dr. Pack said she has 23% of her body burned, which is considered moderate. When she was rescued, many areas were already burned beyond recognition. Isolde was sweating coldly from the pain and unconsciousness. I couldn't even bear to look at her wounds. Listening to Cassandra's description, I couldn't imagine the agony Isolde had endured. I sat beside her bed, staring at her unconscious face, her brow furrowed in distress. The doctor also said the most worrying part is her mental state. She was deeply frightened before she lost consciousness, which could worsen her condition. Since she came back here, it seems like nothing has been going right for her. It's like there's always someone against her, Cassandra continued. I'll find the best Dr. Pack to treat her, I murmured, my emotions complicated. Alpha, may I ask why your phone was off? Cassandra suddenly asked, her tone tinged with curiosity. I glanced up at her, feeling an uneasy weight settle in my chest. Cassandra forced a smile. Sorry, I didn't mean anything by it. It's just that I saw Isolde's phone had 2 missed calls, right around the time she was trapped in that room. Clearly, she was panicking and couldn't think of anything other than hoping you would come to rescue her. If you had answered the phone and contacted the safety team right away, Isolde might have been rescued in time, and this wouldn't have happened. I lowered my head and remained silent for a moment before quietly replying, It wasn't a good time to take the call. I didn't expect something like this to happen to Isolde. Cassandra, based on the information from her sources, knew Nathaniel had been having a candlelit dinner with Seraphina at the time. But Nathaniel never easily ignored Isolde's calls. It was Seraphina who must have rejected the calls and turned off the phone. At this very moment, Nathaniel was still shouldering the blame to protect Seraphina, just as Isolde had feared. It's such a shame Isolde could have avoided this accident. I changed the subject. Has the doctor said when she'll wake up? Not sure. The doctor said she needs further observation. It could be tonight, or it might be tomorrow morning. Alpha Nathaniel, please stay here with her. She kept calling your name before she passed out, and if she wakes up to see you here, she won't be scared. Only you can give her that strength. I frowned, silent. If I didn't return by the morning, explaining to Seraphina would be even more difficult. Seeing my hesitation, Cassandra sighed and continued, Isolde's life has been so hard. The doctor said even though werewolves have powerful healing abilities, such extensive burns will still leave scars. Alpha, you know how much this could impact a young girl, especially a female star, right? She called you when she was trapped in that room before the fire spread. That was her only chance at survival. If she had called me or someone else from the crew, she might not have gotten so hurt, but you let her down. How heartbroken will she be if she wakes up and doesn't see you here? Today was her birthday and she didn't want to disturb you. While taking a break during filming, she just stared at her phone. She said that even if you didn't come to see her, just receiving your birthday wish would make her happy. Who would have thought such an accident would happen on her birthday? Isolde really is so pitiful, it breaks your heart. I remained silent for a moment. Well, I'm going to step outside to make a call.